I call to order the regular meeting of the Mount Pleasant City Commission, Monday, August 24th, 2026 at 7 p.m. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Mount Pleasant City Commission recognizes the Anishinaabe, whose ancestral lands the city stands upon today. We acknowledge the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe and recognize that the three bands of Ojibwe, Saginaw, Black River, and Swan Creek, have resided on this land for over 200 years. Our acknowledgement of the full history of the tribe and our commitment to be good stewards of these ancestral lands is an expression of gratitude and appreciation to those ancestors who came before us. We give thanks to the generous care with which the Anishinaabe and those members of the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe of Michigan have given and continue to give to this land and our community. Clerk Schmelter, please call the roll.
Commissioner Alsager.
Here.
Commissioner Demarath. Commissioner Perschbacher.
Here.
Commissioner Rollins.
Here.
Commissioner Skalitsky.
Here.
Vice Mayor Eke.
Here.
Mayor Wingard.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. This evening, we have no proclamations and presentations. Next item on the agenda is the disclosure of conflicts of interest, opportunity for recusal. Pursuant to the City of Mount Pleasant's Code of Ethics, members of the City Commission may use this time to disclose and discuss any conflicts of interest or perceived conflicts of interest and recuse themselves from discussion and action involved with that item of business. Does any member of the Commission have a conflict they wish to discuss at this time? Okay, not seeing any. If the clerk would note that Commissioner Demarath has joined the meeting at this time. We will move into additions and deletions to the agenda. This time, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda members of the commission would like to make?
Yes, at this time, I would like to make an addition for a consideration for a motion to do a comparison analysis for our bidding process for our capital improvement projects and new business.
Okay. There is the motion to make that addition. Again, could you restate the item for us as well?
To new business, I wish to add consideration for a motion to do a comparison analysis to the responsible contractors ordinances that were presented last meeting to our current bidding process when considering bids for our capital improvement projects.
Okay. I would second that. So there's a motion and a second to add an item into new business. It would be item number 14. Regarding considering a motion to request, again, additional information as described. Let's see. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Do we have any documents for this so we can look at this prior or look at this while we're discussing it?
They were provided at the last meeting. There
Okay.
was two ordinances. One was for Bay City, the other was for Jackson, along with a packet from the Municipal Solidarity Index that the AFL-CIO has prepared together. This was all at the dais at the last meeting. So we have had the last couple of weeks to review these documents.
Okay.
There was an email that was sent out by Director Moore regarding our current process, but I would like to investigate further what that comparison would be to those two processes.
Sure. So again, my understanding as the person who seconded the motion is that you would like to give further direction to staff to create a comparison between these items.
Correct.
To provide back to the members of the commission. Okay. Is there any other discussion on this on the proposed amendment?
Yeah.
Vice Mayor Eke?
Okay, I want to clarify that you're not asking for a comprehensive discussion right now, but you just want a motion to direct staff to put together a comparative
Analysis.
analysis of these.
Processes.
Yeah. Are you asking for recommendation to the city commission also at that point?
Just wish to give staff direction to do an analysis so that that way we can compare with and make an informed decision if there's any adjustments that need to be made to our bidding process.
Okay. So in other words, we're looking at the pieces that were presented to us, comparing them to the city's vetting process. Am I understanding you clearly?
You are indeed.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Not seeing any other discussion on the item, I'll call the vote. So all those in favor of the motion of adding to the agenda item number 14, consider motion to direct staff. Commissioner Skolitsky, could you reread your motion for me?
To direct staff to do a comparison analysis for our bidding process to the RCO responsible contractors ordinances that were presented to the commission at the last meeting.
Okay. Everyone's clear on that? All in favor of the addition to the agenda, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. At this time, I also have an addition to the agenda that I would like to present. Okay. So I'm going to make the motion, make my motion to make the amendments, and then I will give further explanation to this, because I imagine that there will be some interest. But at this time, I would move to add to the agenda as item number 15, under new business, consider motion to rescind July 27th, 2026 decision to approve termination of PRD agreements. Discussion on this item. And again, to the general public who is very intently listening and watching in, my motivation in making this motion has nothing to do with the content of what we are discussing here today. And I fully intend to see that the public hearings and the members of the public who are interested in speaking this are heard, and we take in that input there. My concern in bringing forward this motion is to address process for how we proceed with this item, with this discussion that every member of this community has a great deal of stake in. Talking about what my concern is. So first, pursuant to the Mount Pleasant City Code of Ordinances, Section 30.07F, Rules of Debate, a motion to rescind any action taken by the commission may be made by any commissioner if the original motion has not been acted upon or the action or part of the action can be undone. At this time, the PRD agreement dissolution, the termination agreement, was approved. However, it does not go into force and effect until we complete rezoning action, potentially this evening. With that, let's see, the reason for this motion is to better address a discrepancy which has been identified within the approved contract and the rezonings we are considering here today. Let's see. The termination agreement we approved on 7/27/26 will only go into effect once all parties have signed and listed parcels have been rezoned in the manner described by the termination agreement. The termination agreement references several properties to be rezoned as CD4 residential uses permitted. However, that designation does not actually exist in city zoning and is not reflective of the zonings we are actually considering here today. CD4 is a general urban zoning type, which by definition permits residential uses. There's no need to list residential uses permitted separately from the CD4 designation. The rezonings we are considering this evening are for CD4 with a specific residential dwelling use only restriction. It is a specific description and term within within our ordinances. Let's see. The termination agreement states that the city and the owners agree to terminate, vacate, and abandon the PRD agreements and any existing amendments as of the effective date of this agreement, or the date the rezoning takes effect, whichever occurs later, and that the PRD agreements shall be superseded in all respects by this agreement. It further states that the city and the owners understand and agree that the termination of the PRD agreement is conditioned upon proper approval, the City Commission and City Planning Commission's approval of this agreement, and the rezoning of all the parcels to the zoning classifications referenced above in paragraph 2. That is where the CD4 residential use is permitted versus CD4 residential dwelling use only comes into play. Further, the parties further understand and agree that in the event the parcels located within the
Mr. Mayor, I apologize for interrupting, but I don't
Please go.
believe you've actually gotten a second on your motion to actually provoke discussion.
Okay.
So we need to get that second before we go into this piece. I apologize. I was waiting
No.
for that opening, but
No, I appreciate it. Yeah.
of course, thank you.
I'll second it. So,
Okay. So motion was made by myself and seconded by the vice mayor. Let's see. But the parties further understand and agree that in the event the parcels located within the PRD district are not all individually rezoned in accordance with paragraph 2 and the ordinances, the PRD agreement will remain in full force and effect. This language in the agreement that we have approved does not actually match the rezonings that we are considering here this evening. There's just that discrepancy there. CD4 residential uses, CD4 by design again permits residential uses. Residential uses permitted is not a special requirement or designation which exists in our zoning code. CD4 residential dwelling use only is a defined special requirement in our zoning code, section 154.203G. I appreciate the work that which has been put forward to address this concern that I brought forward. However, at this time, I feel that it is less of a concern and more of an identified flaw in the language we are presented with. Given that we have faced major legal setbacks in the past over seemingly innocent discrepancies in language, i.e. public use versus public purpose, I don't think it is wise to downplay this discrepancy before us today. I'm not confident in the proposed action we are being presented with to approve rezoning pending an alteration to the termination agreement already signed. The proposed alteration will require recirculating an updated termination agreement for the various stakeholders to consider and sign. And both the City Commission and the Planning Commission must approve this per our zoning ordinances. Given the high level of public scrutiny on this matter, I think the right way for us to go about addressing this would be to table any decision on the zoning proposals until an updated and corrected termination agreement may be brought to us for consideration and to rescind our 7/27/26 approval of the previous termination agreement. Whatever our decision may be, to move forward with the recommendation from the Planning Commission to make modifications, to deny, or to refer back for further consideration, I want to make sure we are handling it right, and I want the public to have confidence in the process by which we are making these decisions. So again, that's why, again, I've made the motion, it was seconded by the Vice Mayor, again, to add to agenda as item number 15 under new business. Consider motion to rescind July 27th, 26 decision to approve termination of PRD agreement. Turning to members of the commission for discussion or questions on this proposed amendment.
In layman's terms.
Yeah. Layman's terms.
What does this all mean?
Can we ask the lawyer to tell us what this means, as she is here?
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
So it was brought to our attention upon review of the proposed termination agreement that there was a slight discrepancy in the body of the agreement that referred to rezoning a couple of the parcels to residential uses permitted, rather than, I believe, the language which was residential use only. Yep, as stated in the zoning ordinance. It was a brief oversight, but if you actually look at the entirety of the agreement, including one of the addendums that show I'm sorry, one of the exhibits that shows the actual intended zoning, it does say residential use only. So this was really more of just like a clerical correction when, my office has been working with the city, legal counsel for all the developers, legal counsel for CMU. We've been working on this for a couple of years now. So it was nice to actually get a fresh set of eyes to tell us like, hey, there's kind of this discrepancy here. Can you clarify it? So that's really all it will be doing, is just changing it from permitted to only, which aligns with what the intention of the city and the developers are, and aligns with the ordinance more closely. It's not a significant modification. And then I would just kind of emphasize, just like any other contract that the city is going to enter into, this is all subject to negotiation, right? So if there is that discrepancy or believed discrepancy with the developers upon review, if they have any concerns, then we can readdress it with the city. That doesn't necessarily mean that you can't adopt it with the conditional language subject to approval. Does that help?
So we can actually make our determination tonight then?
You could absolutely adopt this termination agreement with the condition that the language be modified, and then it would be subject to further discussion with the developers. But as I stated, after negotiating this contract for about 2 years, right? About 2+ years, we're all of the same mind that it was residential only, and it aligns better with the zoning ordinance. And it again mirrors the actual exhibit that we have included in this that's always been present. And I can't remember what page it was, but it was really pretty and I showed it to you a second ago, but it'll all aligns with what's already been discussed and agreed to.
Okay.
So we don't have to even have this on the dais at this time because it can begin we've already voted on this and we can move forward the way it is.
Yes, absolutely. You can
Thank
take
you.
a vote today and approve it with the conditional language added.
Okay.
Commissioner Allensager, did you have any additional, you had your hand raised as well. I wanted to give you the
That
opportunity.
answered my question.
Vice Mayor?
I think that, well, I don't think, given that, I'm just going to be, straightforward. Given that we've had lengthy conversation about this land and that it is contentious, okay, I'm just going to be transparent here and, straightforward about it. It is contentious. It has become contentious, whether or not we want to acknowledge it. And as you said, we are engaged in negotiation. I don't see any reason why we cannot take this back and clean it up, as opposed to having marked up, document contingent on, I would like to see a clean document. I worry, and I'm going to say why. As somebody who in practice deals with language issues and intentionality issues, I don't want to worry about this a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 from now. Just clean it up, bring it back in 2 weeks. We're here. We're not disappearing unless the sky falls. Okay, I'd like us to have a clean language and so that we understand that this is actually what we mean and that the document says exactly what we mean at this particular moment. That's all I'm asking.
Manager DeSenza.
Thank you. To Commissioner Eke's point, or I'm sorry, Vice Mayor Eke's point, there is a document on the dais with the proposed changes that would happen to the document. It just simply states in red the language that's there. The language that is captured within Director Manuela's reporting would capture the appropriate motion for this to be the change to the document. Again, there is no change in what has been discussed in terms of what sort of zoning will apply to these properties, only in page 2 of that particular document where it says residential uses, it now uses the different term residential dwellings only at that point. So it's very clear between all of the reporting and not just the reporting. In Director Povideco's presentation to the Planning Commission, multiple presentations to the Planning Commission at this point, as well as to the City Commission, there really is no question here as to what's being proposed. Again, it's just a modification to the second page in that document.
Yeah, and I
To
just
the
want to
attorney.
echo that and just say that the language is highlighted on page 38. That is where the new language was. Once it was brought to our attention that there was some lack of clarity, we
Mhm.
immediately made those modifications, so it would be in your packet in a timely fashion. And then the chart that I showed you that does correctly identify what the rezoning would be is on page 46. And that has never changed, and that has always expressed the clear intention of all of the parties.
My concern has largely just stemmed from the actual, again, the contract goes from there are the additional exhibits which are included and it goes from page 1 through, but the actual contract of the termination agreement goes from page 1 to 9 for all the signatories. And my primary concern is that paragraph 9, the parties further understand and agree that in the event the parcels located within the PRD district are not individually rezoned in accordance with paragraph 2 and the ordinances, the PRD agreement will remain, the PRD agreement will remain in full force and effect. And so with it being in section 2, like, again, I think I don't think anyone in this room is under the impression of like, we aren't intending to rezone it to CD for residential dwelling use only. But it's just not the language that has been approved, not just by the city commission, but also the planning commission, which is, and that process for the termination of a PRD agreement is laid out in our zoning ordinances. So it has to, the planning commission reviews it and then it comes back to the city commission. And at this point, we've already approved an agreement. We've already approved a PRD termination agreement. That's where I think having a new agreement brought before us as a separate individual item prior to acting on any rezoning, I think that is what I am concerned about here. That is what I'd like to see occur. That, and hence the reason for my motion there. Again, I voted to, and I signed the termination agreement. It was end of July. I signed it and everything when staff brought it in as part of my packets. So again, I was comfortable terminating it, but is the additional understanding there, I saw that language and it gave me concern. That is why I'm bringing forward the agreement that we have in our hands now with the updated language. Paragraph 2, switching it to residential dwelling uses only. That language there, that change is kind of fundamental to the contract, and this contract will then need to be recirculated. Other members, my understanding is other members or parties to this agreement would then need to provide updated signatures on this.
Yes, they would provide additional signatures, but it wouldn't have to be recirculated, like you said, because you have the revised draft in front of you. So once this is approved, then it just moves forward with signature, assuming that there's no additional questions from the developers. Just like any other kind of contract negotiation. The PRD agreement and the termination of a PRD agreement is kind of a tool, just like a petition to modify your zoning maps would be, right? So it's a vehicle for you guys to move forward with the zoning revision. So I want to point that out. The distinction is that there's a little bit of wiggle room for that negotiation and additional conditions. And it aligns with your other processes for zoning map amendments, right? Where you guys have the option to adopt with changes or kick it back or all those different things. But there's nothing wrong or prohibiting you under your ordinance to accept and adopt this agreement with the revised language that has been presented. I also just want to clarify that this motion that's on the table is a motion to add an agenda item as item 14, right? So
Item
this is
15. Yeah.
Item 15, so
Yeah.
it's not an actual motion at this time to rescind. It's just the motion to update the agenda.
Correct,
Okay,
yes. This is a motion to update the agenda to consider
Okay.
consider that. Both votes, according to the charter, to add this item to the agenda, and then also to choose to rescind that decision would require a 2/3 vote. So it would need to be a super majority essentially. But Vice Mayor?
In other words, we just need to vote on whether or not to add this item to the agenda. Okay,
Yes.
can we vote then?
If you're calling the.
I mean, there's no need for discussion now. We can discuss further later on.
Yes, that's what I was trying to square away. Yep.
Okay, let's see. Okay, again, the motion is to consider adding as agenda item number 15. Consider motion to rescind July 7th, 26 decision. July 27th, 2026 decision to approve termination of PRD agreements. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Okay, I think it's the two on the end there. Believe I counted 5 there, in favor, so that will be added as item number 15 in this case. 15. Okay. Are there any further additions or deletions to the agenda at this time? All those in favor of moving forward, or is there a motion to approve the agenda as modified?
I move that we approve the agenda as modified.
Seconded?
Okay, there's a motion made by the Vice Mayor and seconded by Commissioner Sklitsky to approve the agenda as modified. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. Okay. At this time, we are going to move into public input on agenda items. Keep in mind at this time, members of the public may step up to the microphone and they will be given 5 minutes to speak on any item that is on the agenda. Please state your name, address, and the item you wish to speak on for the record. If you are on Zoom, please use the raise hand feature to indicate that you would like to speak. And if you are in the audience, please feel free to form a queue. Keeping in mind that we do have 2 public hearings this evening as item number 12 and number 13.
Hello, City Commissioners. I was going to wait until public comment, but this I think probably fits better with item number 14 that was just added. Katie Mora, President and CEO for Middle Michigan Development Corporation and also resident within the city of Mount Pleasant. I would highly urge you not to slow this process down any further. It is completely appropriate to approve this with the adjustments that have been made. We have a housing developer that we have worked for a very, very long time, along with the city staff, to bring to the table. If we do not approve this evening, that will not move forward. When we work with developers, which we do all the time, whether it's industrial, whether it's mixed use, whether it's housing, speed is everything. Everyone knows that Michigan needs housing. Everyone knows that. Every community is in a race to get that housing in their communities so that the people that are looking to move into homes can move there. With 60 homes, which is being proposed, we are looking at anywhere between $1.3 and $1.7 million. Actually more than that, because when we originally did this, we did this for 50 homes that will be spending power within the city. Obviously, not all of that will automatically stay, but that is significant. We're looking at about $17 million to $18 million in investment here in the city. I don't even know the last time that we had a project that was that large that we were able to say came here. It's also concerning from a more broad and general discussion because developers of all kinds are watching to see if we are ready or not. And this has taken 2 years. If we extend this even longer, I don't know how developers will be able to say that we are development ready. And that's a problem because that is something that I share when I go and visit with developers across the country and across the state. So I do urge you for item number 14 to consider approving this with the adjustments so that we can get this project done and we can be really excited and really proud of the project that goes there as we celebrate bringing housing in, which has been a huge priority for the city and for my organization over the last few years. So thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Joseph Carrion. I live on 109 North Arnold Street. I want to talk about the newly added consent item 2, which is She kind of said everything I wanted to say. I second that speed, like, we really put ourselves in a bad spot the longer this goes out. Like, I said, I don't want to waste too much time. She said everything perfectly, way better than I could articulate. But the other thing I want to stress is, voices are not coming out as loud. City Attorney, I'm sorry, but it's hard to hear you back there. That goes for the rest of you. Please speak in the mic tonight.
Hi, my name is Benjamin, and well, I live 1109 West Campus Drive. I came here with opportunity. I'm a first generation immigration, so I came here because of Central, and to give me the opportunity to do my master and grow my professional side, that is the cultural side, and how I ended up here today speaking and sharing a little bit of my side. And it's kind of funny. And it always started because I started a family. So I got married this year, and it was awesome. I married in the courthouse here. And the first steps that you think about a family is to have a home. And that's what I want to share because I noticed searching to have a home with Thea, my wife, how was difficult over here. And especially to have the opportunities even aside, I'm trying to talk from a side of the new generation, families trying to raise, I'm not going to enter into the political side, but we know how hard it is for, especially the socioeconomic state nowadays, how you can start your new home, to have and establish in a place. I really, really, really identified with Mount Pleasant, and that's one of the first things that I did. I put effort to stay here, even finishing my master, because for me it was amazing how many different cultural we have around our region and how can I help integrate on that. But I noticed this side, how hard it was difficult to have a first housing. And digging on that, I started to notice that it has plans to be able to create this. One of this, it was in this case, this rezoning that is happening. And I noticed how long it's taking. And because of my experience, and I came from a city, very large city, I'm talking about more than 12 million people. I noticed what opportunity we're having here. We are talking about the basic creation of a neighborhood, multi-purpose neighborhood with different type of incomes that is going to be the families in these houses. And that's I include myself. Me struggling to try to have a first house and trying to find like prices that I can create something here. And because of that, I can raise and create more opportunities for this place. Is being a challenge. Like example, I have even my friend over here hosting, was hosting the apartment today. And like he's going, was in New Mexico, going to Massachusetts, but even he created his roots here to visit here. He, all the summer he wants to visit here. And how many friends passed through to me that could have like, could create a long-term commitment to here. I'm talking about even the education, more the education cultural side that I experienced that. And yeah, I want to share that because like myself have a job, my wife also have a job, and we still need to find a person to live together. So we are able to pay the cost just for living. So yeah, it's been hard, but I hope this goes on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Marja Notstein. I live at 1361 South Crawford Street. I'm for more housing. I see studies saying that we desperately need more single-family housing. I have yet to see findings saying there's a desperate need in Mount Pleasant, Michigan for a private school which requires more land than we can find for a much-needed single-family housing. Housing which additionally will add to the tax base for the future needs of our entire tax-paying city. 15 acres for housing is just being squeezed in between parking lots. After wrangling with the city for 2, 3, 4 years, and with all the suitable land surrounding the city limits, and since children's education doesn't need an exact piece of property for a good education, whether the building is built on Lincoln Road or M20, the school people just had to have the last acres within our city limits, or some of the last acres within our city limits, left for building single-family homes and zoned for housing for decades. Only this piece of property would do for them. But free land is a big incentive. It's the dangling carrot in front of them. People buy property all over our city, all over the state. They build according to the zoning laws, but in Mount Pleasant, on the southwest corner of the city, the owner doesn't like the way his property is zoned. So he would rather give it most away, of course, there's a tax break, rather than build it and it was zoned to benefit all of these years the future city needs. The owner left it vacant for all these years. As a city resident, I don't like giving our tax base away. And as a PS, I feel that the school people petition never describes what piece of Mount Pleasant land they require for their school. It's a feel-good statement, but it never says legally what piece of property in the city of Mount Pleasant they want to build their school, at least what I've seen on your website, that's all. Thank you. Sorry, I wasn't really finished, although I said thank you. Big picture, great big piece of land given to CMU. This is where the school is going to be. This little squeezed in place is where the housing is going to be. Parking lights over here, parking lot and lights over here, parking lots and lights down here. It's just squeezed in among all the parking lights. I don't think many houses like living next to all those parking lots. Now, thank you.
Hello, my name is Mary Simula. I live at 1315 Toma Drive in Mount Pleasant. I oppose the commercial zoning at the southwest corner of Broomfield and Crawford Roads. The proposed CD4 zone on the 8 acres allows
Mary?
commercial use.
This would be for the public hearing if you're speaking specifically about the rezoning.
Yes.
That would be for during the public hearing.
Correct.
Yeah, it's yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
My name's Benjamin Deal. Office is at 795 Clyde Court, Byron Center, Michigan. I'm with Allen Edwin Homes. We are the developer, one of the developers that's currently engaged on the property. I just wanted to rise in support of the action on 12 and hopefully negative. I think 12 was the initial reconsideration for the
15,
rezone.
yeah,
Oh, it's
12,
15.
12 is a public hearing.
Oh,
yeah,
gotcha.
yeah.
All right. 14 and 15. So I'll be here at public comment. If anybody has any questions about our particular participation in this, I'd be more than happy to dialogue with them. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Hinkle. I actually own the northwest corner of the Crawford and Broomfield, the Bravado Apartments. So the 1002 West Broomfield Street. I'll just say that that little piece of land, it was a vacant lot. The apartments owned it before I purchased it from Country Place at the time. It's a vacant lot. They mowed it once a month. It was kind of a little eyesore. There was no trees, no bushes, nothing. I purchased it. You know, the city was honestly pretty quick about approving my plans to build 60 units. You know, anybody that's trying to build something, you're trying to build it nice. So we built those 60 units. We put on, I don't know, 100 trees, 300 bushes. There's sidewalks all on that corner now. We see people from those condos, from the Countryway, that neighborhood, we see them walking across the sidewalks all the time. My kids used to go to Bowles. They would walk from Bowles to there, and then they would ride their bikes right on that little sidewalk. You know, and that before that was approved, that was just a little vacant piece of land. Now I know a lot of the public has a lot of inputs what to do with the corner that they're talking about now on the southwest side. Yeah, southwest side.
Mike, are you talking about rezonings?
What's that?
Rezoning,
Yes.
public
That's good.
hearing. Yeah, it'd be the public hearing you're looking for.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
let's see.
I'll just wait for that.
Yeah, so to clarify again, if you're speaking specifically on the approval or not approval of any or modifications of any of the rezonings referenced in item 12 or 13, that would be for the public hearings. Let's see. Item number 15 was is the consideration of rescinding the commission's decision to terminate the agreements. Just separate items. So as members of the public step up, please make sure you're stating which item number you are speaking on. If you're speaking on 12 or 13, either of the public hearings, it would be best to hold your comments for the public hearings as that is the allotted time for that.
Well, I'm confused. Tim Manus, 110 Plum Tree Lane. It looks like there's already been discussion about Broomfield and Crawford. And in the past, we've had this first 5 minutes, and then after the public hearing, which I think is kind of silly, it should all be kept till after the public hearing, but I'm going to go ahead and use my time because I know this is going to go late. I'm a longtime resident. I opposed this goes way back further than 2 years ago. Originally it was proposed for student housing. I was on a list of 750 fellow residents that opposed it. And I think probably the developers are glad, given the state of student housing, that we did oppose it. But 2 years ago, your planning commission and your staff came with a very sound proposal, and this commission, in a 4-3 vote, denied it. So here we are again. It looks like it's been tweaked. I think it's a beautiful compromise, quite honestly. You're going to hear arguments about traffic. You're going to hear arguments, private versus public schools. You're going to hear arguments about, oh, that's 30 acres out of the tax base. But as far as the traffic, if a school does go in there, we will have a school speed zone. I use that road daily. That would be really nice. Private versus public schools. We've had Mount Pleasant Sacred Heart here for as long as we can remember. Does anybody think that that's not a good thing for Mount Pleasant? Tax base. It seems our city, what we've chosen to do is embrace marijuana shops to generate tax revenue. So we can put, they're not asking for that here. Maybe a strip club, that would generate quite a bit of revenue, probably, tax revenue. But what I want to urge you to do tonight is to listen to the people that have really studied this. We all have our opinions, but your planning commission and your professional staff has come up with a compromise for this property to finally get it developed. We'll get some housing, we'll get a nice school, and instead of just having this empty field, we can go forward. Thank you.
Are there any raised hands on Zoom? Okay, thank you. Are there any emails? Okay. And at this time, we'll move into receipt of petitions and communications. Manager Sense, if you would.
Petitions and communications this evening includes petition from residents regarding parcel number 17-000-17-30600, Council of Government minutes from June, and Council of Government agenda from August. Note there are also several items on the dais for the City Commission that includes a letter from Susan Griffith on tonight's zoning discussion, a letter from MMDC President and CEO Katie Mora on tonight's zoning discussion, and feedback from various landlords on Tenant Rights Committee resolution draft.
Okay. Thank you, Manager Sense. And then moving into consent agenda. Manager Sense, if you would.
Consent items this evening includes the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting held August 10, 2026. Consider resolution in support of final approval of temporary traffic control order number 1, 2026, which, just so the city commission is aware, changes the times on two 15-minute limited parking signs on the first two angled parking spaces on the north side of Maple, east of Arnold Street, in front of 701 East Maple Street to now read 15-minute parking, 7:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. Consider approval of the purchase of 7 pickup trucks from Crapel Ford at a net cost of $125,515 after a $197,000 trade-in credit. Consider approval of employer delegate for the Municipal Employees Retirement System annual meeting. Consider the appointment of voting delegate and alternate for the MML, that being Mayor Wingard as the delegate and Vice Mayor Eke as the alternate. Consider granting a permanent easement across city-owned parcel 17-000-00600-00 for a private sanitary sewer lead serving the adjacent downtown properties and authorize the mayor to execute the necessary documents as prepared. Consider approval of the participation in the Consumers Energy Renewable Program and authorize the city manager to sign the contract, and approval of payrolls and warrants.
Thank you, Manager Sentence. This time, are there any questions from members of the commission concerning any item on the consent agenda? Or are there any items members of the commission would like to move into the regular agenda? Not seeing any. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I move we accept it as presented. I'll second.
Okay. There's a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented and a second made by Commissioner Alasager, seconded by Vice Mayor Eke. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. Okay. Okay, that will bring us into the first of this evening's public hearings. Item number 12, public hearing to allow for public input and to consider the rezoning of properties located southwest of Crawford and Broomfield from PRD, planned residential development, to multiple hardline zoning districts. If you are interested in speaking this evening, this likely is what you came out for speaking on. I do apologize for the confusion with the additional added item into the agenda this evening. But before we get into the public hearing, we'll have an updated presentation from Director Pawadiko to give us information on the topic at hand. Director.
All right, so good evening, commissioners. Can everybody hear me well? All right, awesome. So I'm here tonight just to present a quick summary. We're not going to go through the lengthy presentation I went through during introduction, but just wanted to make sure everybody here in the room and also watching online have the same information regarding a summary of this proposal. So as highlighted at the project's introduction, this rezoning action Z2601 is the alternative proposal to previously filed rezoning Z2401 in 2024. This alternative comes as a recommendation by the Planning Commission following public input and discussions with the City Commission at a joint work session on November 24, 2025. Sorry about that. Trying to find my cursor here. All right, so in summary, as you can see here on the slide, the rezoning proposes to dissolve a 157-acre planned residential development and replace it with hardline zoning designations to encourage complete walkable neighborhoods. The alternative proposal includes acreage changes that are highlighted in yellow here on the slide, which include 1, the reduction of acreage going towards civic uses from 31 to 21 acres, the reduction of acreage going towards commercial, residential, or mixed-use development from 12.1 acres to 7.88 acres. An increase of acreage going towards residential uses only by an additional 15 acres. If this rezoning is approved tonight, this additional site zoned for residential uses will lead to a housing development by Allen Edwin Homes who plan to build approximately 60 owner-occupied housing units for the workforce. So that everybody can visualize and compare the 2024 and 2026 proposals, I'm showing the proposed zoning maps on this slide side by side, which have been part of the City Commission Planning Commission packets. Aside from the acreage changes that I highlighted, the alternative proposal includes: 1, the shifting of the main axis for the CMU parcel from the west edge of the rezoning area towards the center of the new neighborhood for a more efficient and sustainable land use. The 2024 proposal, it would have led to an eventual construction of a thoroughfare along the west boundary here just to access the CMU parcel, whereas the 2026 proposal has the thoroughfare shifted to the middle of the 157-acre site, allowing Main Street access that connect vehicles and pedestrians to surrounding developable parcels. CMU has heard about this change, is in agreement, and it has signed this PRD agreement with other owners. This zoning plan also locates the commercial node closer to the residentially zoned areas to increase walkability in the area, which is both a master plan and zoning ordinance goal. Residential uses close to commercial nodes help increase pedestrian traffic, which helps support future office and commercial uses, and it also encourages residents to walk to services and commerce as opposed to drive. As covered at the July 27 City Commission meeting, the proposed zoning designations comply with the 12 criteria for zoning map amendments set forth by the zoning ordinances, section 154.616, paragraph C, summarized here on this slide. In summary, this rezoning achieves the following outcomes. It places people close to essential services in alignment with master plan goals and objectives 1.1, 1.7, and 3.8. It centralizes access for efficient, sustainable use of the land and enables the zoning standards achieve greater walkability and quality of life. It also meets direction from the joint work session by reducing the civic zone by 10 acres as requested and the commercial property by 4.65 acres, which led to the 15 acres for new housing developments, which will yield 60+ attainable owner-occupied single-family homes for our workforce, something that we heard over and over again in public comment. It also releases open space restrictions from the 54-acre parcel owned by CMU, enabling such land to be developed for university or to residential uses. And last but not least, it streamlines development approval, enabling incremental development and achieving predictability and alignment with best practices from the American Planning Association and the Michigan Economic Development Corporation Redevelopment Ready Community Program, which we're a proud first community in Region 5 to be part of. So I had prepared the slides, Mayor, to convey the information that you shared before. I have it here, so just so the public can see the two languages that we were talking about before. I first want to thank you for spotting this. I think when staff is looking at the same document for so long, we have our technical eyes and we missed it. So I really thank you for finding that language. Just to kind of clarify the way I see the concern is that the way it is right now, if you only read the yellow highlighted portion on the image on the left, which is the current language, it could lead to an open understanding that residential uses are simply one of the uses permitted, but that other uses could potentially be permitted. So rectifying the language to say residential dwelling use only would remove that open interpretation and be completely in alignment with the zoning standards for special requirements as we see in the zoning map. But I will mention these two things that also exist in the same PRD agreement. First, on paragraph 2, its very top section states that specifically, the city wishes to rezone the PRD district in accordance with Exhibit A of this agreement. And that is included in the PRD agreement. Exhibit A is the document that you can see here on the right, which has precisely the colors and the hatches from the zoning map, as well as the legend, which is the very same legend that you see in the city's formal and official zoning map. Because of that, when you read the document in its entirety, there is no openness for interpretation. But clean language is very good. So with that, the City Commission has the ability to approve this rezoning tonight and simply add a condition that this language is clarified, as the city attorney stated, as a clerical matter. So I crafted this language the best way that we could here to not leave any issues moving forward. And if stated, if you choose to approve the rezoning tonight, that will take care of the misalignment on that particular portion of the PRD agreement. So as such, staff's recommendation in the memorandum for the City Commission tonight is to adopt zoning map amendment Z2601 as proposed, with the condition that the termination of the planned residential development agreement be updated to specifically convey the special requirement residential/dwelling use only on paragraph 2, applicable to parcels 17,000, 17,300,00, 17,000, 17,305,00, and the portion of parcel 17,000, 17,306,00, proposed to be zoned to CD4 with the residential dwelling use only special requirement, so that the PRD dissolution agreement is in alignment with the proposed Z2601 zoning map amendment. As you can see here, this is our timeline that we followed in 2026. I did repeat the public hearing at the Planning Commission per our conversation last time on August 13th, and have included the minutes and all the information in the packet as well. Thank you so much for your time. If you have any more questions, please let me know.
Gotcha. Any final questions before we begin the public hearing? Thank you, Director Palatico. Okay. And at this time, we will begin our public hearing on item number 12, public hearing to allow for public input and to consider the rezoning of properties located southwest of Crawford and Broomfield from PRD, planned residential development, to multiple hardline zoning districts. If this is a topic you'd like to speak on, and again, most likely the main draw for people to come out this evening. Again, apologies for any confusion as we deal with the back and forth on contract language. But please step up to the microphone. You'll be given 5 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record.
Okay, I'm Mike Hinkle again. Like I said, I own the other corner of Crawford and Broomfield. Let's get back where I was talking about before. You know, it was a vacant piece of land. Those apartments mowed it once every 3-4 weeks, overgrown, not a bush, not a tree, nothing. You know, we developed it, 8 buildings, nice buildings, sidewalks going all the way through the parking lot. Sidewalks going all the way around, and you know, I don't know exactly how many trees, but the trees outlining the entire parcel with the green belt. I don't know, 50 trees, 100 bushes, like there's, you know, a lot of things that we did to that corner. We feel that it did a good job for the community and everything, and I just think that this corner, we need to work with the owners of them. You know, anything that they can do to try to grow this community would be a plus. Like I said, I think with the CMU enrollment way down, you know, the community's hurting. I know a lot of the business owners in town, everyone's kind of on the decrease. So they're really trying to do anything to keep this community going. They got a good plan. I feel like they've worked with the city, they've worked with a lot of the public input before. So I think that, again, I think anything that this city can do, any different zoning things that you can help them develop it. I know a lot of people are, you know, talking, they want more housing or whatever, but I know one of the bigger developers in town, Joe Oliveira, he always said the quickest way to lose money is to start a subdivision. So You do anything, if they have Allen Edwin Homes here, ready to go on building 60 houses and they're a big company. I think we got to work with them as best as we can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Joseph Carrion. I live on 109 North Arnold Street, and I want to speak directly about the commercial property within this PRD or the zoning. Recently, there have been many lies said about this property that need to be addressed, and probably more lies going to be said tonight. But before we cover the lies, we must talk about the assumptions being made. There have been a lot of assumptions of what this commercial property is going to look like, and then using those assumptions to make false claims. The reality is we have no idea what this property is going to look like, but that's why Manuela stated that we have to trust in the zoning ordinance. Recently, Stadium Mall was used to describe what this property would become. Does Stadium Mall meet the requirements of CD4? Sure, but Stadium Mall fails to meet the character district description of CD4, which is medium density. Like, as commissioners, this is something you should be pressing your planning commission to follow. A better example of what this property could look like is what we see in our downtown, right? Where Art reaches, Green Tree, all of these spaces. If you combine some of these blocks in our downtown, it fully fits within this 8 acres, which means there's plenty of room to even add green space and ensure that the entire property is approachable by foot and bike. So the first lie is that this will increase traffic. You know what will guarantee traffic? Housing where everyone needs a car. So does commercial property increase traffic? Well, it depends. Are you putting a Raising Cane's here, a 7 Brew, or are you putting a Rick's? Those are very different commercial properties, all of you which have a lot of power in the situation to guide and make sure that we put in the right thing. But the truth is that infrastructure on road design plays a much bigger factor in traffic than the actual commercial space. The next slide is how this will make the area less safe. More cars doesn't mean less safe. In fact, we had studies during the pandemic showing the complete opposite. So I used to live in Houston, Texas, and I was in Houston, Texas during the pandemic. And what we learned was that we saw roads go from back-to-back traffic to being completely open during that time. And these areas ended up becoming more dangerous for pedestrians as fatality rates increased 30%. And that makes sense as speed is one of the core components to crashes becoming deadly. Mount Pleasant is a destination. Slowing down should be the minimum we ask of our drivers. The last slide is how we will need to expand Bloomfield. To keep it short, a single lane of road has a throughput of about 1,800 cars per hour. Bloomfield is nowhere near that, and a commercial property of this size wouldn't come close to breaking that. However, intersections have a much lower throughput, but the intersection has already been expanded in this area, so we should be good there. And I think there's a lot of misconception in regards to affordability. Are we in a housing crisis? Yes, absolutely. But housing is merely one factor of affordability. If you only focus on housing, then you fail to solve many other affordability issues, like car ownership. Car ownership is right behind the housing crisis. The average used car payment is over $500 a month now. That's used cars, not new. Then there's the ever-increasing car insurance and the insane gas prices. And don't take my word for it. According to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, every car costed roughly around $13,174 a year during 2023. Those costs have only gone up since then. That means every resident can save roughly about $1,097 per month per car. This commercial space has to be large enough to accommodate people living car-free, and I think 8 acres is enough to accomplish that. I'm not saying the housing crisis doesn't matter, but as commissioners, you should be ensuring all affordability issues are being addressed, and this 8 acres of commercial space addresses everything that new housing can't address. And that's why, again, we have to trust in our zoning ordinance, which is why I've been addressing all of the flaws our ZBA has. Our zoning ordinance is great, but it doesn't help if our ZBA isn't following it or is just straight up incompetent. Thank you.
My name is Timothy Caldwell. I live at 1340 Glen in Mount Pleasant. My reason for addressing the board is to ask some questions about the process of the proposed rezoning. I have printed out an organizational map of the city of Mount Pleasant. And it's interesting to note that we have at the very top, city residents, followed by the commission, followed by the city manager, and then all the other prospects as well. The board have that chart. Directly under that, as the board has said, I've just gone through this routine. The board is elected to use its best judgment when making decisions that concern all residents. And the city manager, as it's pointed out on the chart, is hired by and responsible to the board. The question for the board is, have you been told by the city manager, who is an employee, that the board is not allowed to directly contact the city planner, who is also an employee of the board? If so, don't you think it is strange that the employee tells the bosses what they can or cannot do? And if you followed the city manager's order, why have you abrogated your authority? You will be voting on a rezoning that will affect the entire neighborhood for future generations. Residents from that neighborhood have stated their objections. Have you seriously listened to them, or have you merely accepted the views of the city planner? Finally, will you have an open public debate about the rezoning in the form of a parliamentary process that is required by law, wherein there is a motion, a second, and a discussion, so we can all hear why each of you will vote as you do? Thank you for listening.
Hello again, Katie Mora, Middle Michigan Development Corporation. I did provide a letter, and so I just wanted to read that so that the public could hear what the letter had to say as well. Dear City Commissioners, on behalf of Middle Michigan Development Corporation, I'm writing again in support of the proposed rezoning of the Crawford and Broomfield properties and dissolution of the existing planned residential development. At the last meeting, we emphasized that housing is an economic development issue. As the City Commission continues to consider this request, we believe it is important to focus on the opportunity directly in front of us, the potential to facilitate approximately 60 new homes in Mount Pleasant and demonstrate that our community is prepared to support residential development. The need for additional housing is well documented. The 2025 Region G Housing Needs Assessment prepared by Bowen National Research identifies a significant housing gap across the region and in the city of Mount Pleasant specifically. Even more concerning, Housing Forward, the regional housing partner, reports that if housing development continues at its current pace, approximately 92% of the region's identified housing needs will remain unmet. The message is clear: maintaining the status quo will not be enough. Communities must create opportunities for housing development to occur. In other words, the greatest risk to addressing our housing shortage is not the size of any single project, but that viable housing opportunities continue to stall while the gap continues to grow. Their proposed Crawford and Broomfield rezoning presents one of those opportunities. Approximately 60 homes would represent a substantial expansion of Mount Pleasant's housing supply and a significant step toward closing the community's documented housing gap. We recognize that questions have been raised about whether the proposed development represents sufficient density for a community facing a housing shortage. We believe, however, that density should be evaluated within the context of the city's broader housing strategy. The goal should not be to maximize the number of units on every available property, but to create a housing market with a range of options that can serve different households, income levels, and stages of life. This development would make a meaningful contribution to that broader goal by adding needed housing while supporting a balanced and sustainable approach to residential growth. Our work in childcare has reinforced an important lesson that applies to housing as well. Diversity of choice matters. There's no single childcare model that meets the needs of every family, just as there's no single housing product that meets the needs of every household. Larger, higher density developments have an important role to play in addressing our housing shortage, but so do single family developments exactly like this one that provide additional options in terms of housing type, price point, location, and ownership. A healthy housing strategy needs both. Importantly, this is not simply a request to rezone lands in anticipation of a potential future project. There is an identified developer, an identified housing opportunity, and a project that is contingent on the requested zoning change. Allen Edwin Homes is one of Michigan's most established residential builders with decades of experience developing communities throughout the state. The company has built thousands of homes across Michigan and has demonstrated experience delivering residential projects in communities similar to Mount Pleasant. The Commission has a rare opportunity to translate the community's stated needs for housing into an actual development opportunity. If the rezoning is not approved, this particular site will not be positioned to support the proposed housing development. We should not assume that another opportunity of this scale with an experienced developer ready to move forward will simply present itself. There's also tangible economic impact associated with the 60 new homes to the community. A recent Allen Edwin project in Eaton Rapids involved 31 homes, represented approximately $9.1 million in total capital investment. If a similar per home investment were achieved in Mount Pleasant, 60 homes could represent an investment on the order of $17 million to $18 million in new residential construction. While actual investment and tax impacts will depend on the final project, the scale illustrates that housing development is also an economic investment for the community. The economic impact extends beyond the initial construction investment. Using regional household income data as an illustrative benchmark, if Mount Pleasant attracts just 50 additional workforce households, those households could represent approximately $1.3 million to $1.7 million in annual household consumer spending capacity. While not all of the spending would necessarily occur within Mount Pleasant, the estimates illustrate that new housing does not simply add units, it creates the capacity for new households to live, work, and spend in the community. That spending supports local grocery stores, restaurants, retailers, childcare providers, healthcare services, and other businesses, strengthening the local customer base and contributing to the community's overall economic vitality. Beyond the individual project, the decision before the City Commission sends a broader message to the development community. Approving this rezoning demonstrates that Mount Pleasant is a community that is ready for development. Developers and investors look for communities where land use policies are predictable, development opportunities are clear, and local governments are willing to work collaboratively to facilitate appropriate investment. Establishing a clear zoning framework for this property signals that Mount Pleasant is serious about creating opportunities for housing and private investment. That signal matters as an economic development organization. One of MMDC's roles is to market our communities and connect them with developers and investors. We want to be able to tell prospective development partners that Mount Pleasant is ready for development.
Thank you. Your time is.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
Thank
And you can read the rest.
Again, Benjamin Deal, Allen Edwin Homes. Just to keep it very simple for us, we're excited to be here. We're excited to have been able to work with the owners of the property, to meet with city staff over the course of looking at this project. However, we are at a standstill until we can get to some sort of resolution on the zoning so that we can move this forward and start bringing concept ideas before the Planning Commission and then eventually the City Council. So I, again, just want to encourage you, no matter what course you take tonight, time is of the essence for us. We need to be able to make some decisions about where we're going to be engaged and over what time period. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
My name is Mary Simula. My address is 1315 Toma Drive, Mount Pleasant. Hope I'm speaking at the right time now.
Thank you, Mary.
I do oppose the commercial zoning at the southwest corner of Broomfield and Crawford Roads. The proposed CD4 zone on the 8 acres allows commercial uses. 8 acres of commercial use will harm the neighborhood and the city. Our city already has an excess of vacant retail storefronts and undeveloped commercial land. We do not need more. Within walking distance of the intersection, you can see the vacated 7-Eleven building on Broomfield, an undeveloped commercial lot next to the Cabin Bar, the vacated SBX property adjacent to the CMU campus, and multiple empty retail spaces and lots along Mission. A staff report references national vacancy rates to suggest this is normal, but the current commercial vacancy rate in Mount Pleasant is not normal for our area. If you compare our local commercial vacancy rate before the pandemic to what we see today, the difference is glaring. Commercial development brings heavy traffic. Broomfield Road traffic affects not only the southwest neighborhood and CMU's campus, but the entire city. Our road system acts as a single unit. A 2005 traffic study showed that building 12 acres of commercial land and retail on this corner will require making Broomfield and Crawford wider. Please wait to see if abundant housing is built on this property before rezoning. If lots of housing does go up and people need shops or services, you can change the zoning at that point. Allowing commercial uses at this corner now will undercut existing businesses. It will punish local property owners who have already invested in our designated commercial land. Please support our existing businesses, prevent traffic congestion, and allow only residential uses on the 8-acre plot at Broomfield and Crawford. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Gisela Moffett, and I live at 1101 Watson Road. But you know all that from the past because I have been here several times talking about the same issue here. A little over a year ago, you voted to turn down the proposal, and here we are again with a new proposal that is pretty much the same with minor changes. Last year, we established that Mount Pleasant is landlocked and cannot expand. The corner is the only undeveloped parcel left, except for the state home, which has other problems. The city has two major needs that you have heard today already several times. It needs income from taxes, and it needs affordable homes for young families. And the young man that spoke to that was not a plan from me. I don't know him at all, but I really appreciated your input. Younger people cannot afford to live in Mount Pleasant. We are paying higher taxes than Ann Arbor. And there are many reasons for that, but one is that we have a large number of buildings and lots within the city that are tax exempt. The new proposal sets aside 21 acres for a civic zone to accommodate a private school, which will be tax exempt forever. Number two, we need affordable homes, not affordable housing. We have lots of apartments, but they are primarily for transient people. The city reported recently that 12,000 people work in Mount Pleasant, but do not live here. If the commission were to zone the Broomfield and Crawford property primarily for private homes, we could attract that population and help the city grow. However, the major problem now with the proposed plan is the 8 acres of CD4 mixed-use development slated to abut the corner. Mixed-use zoning sounds appealing on paper, but the owner of the 8-acre property has indicated his intent to develop strictly for commercial use. That is fundamentally incompatible with nearby housing plans. Persistent noise, bright lights, increased traffic, and safety issues will keep people away from building their family homes right next to it. Therefore, I ask you to align your zoning choices with this community's stated goals. The 8 acres at the corner should be restricted to housing only. Zone these properties CD3 single families or CD3L single family large lots or CD4 with a strict residential use restriction. I know that this will not be easy for you to make up your mind as you are pressured by peers and powerful people in this community to do their bidding. But I hope you will vote your conscience and remember that most of you had the opportunity to own a house and raise your children in this community. Save this last piece of land and give the younger generation the same opportunity you had. What will be your legacy? Do you want the last piece of available land go to a tax-free entity and commercial development? Or do you want to support the next generation so they can work here, live here, send their children to our schools, and pay their taxes here? I trust you will make the decision that you can be proud of. Thank you.
Good evening, Ernest Peters, 516 North Kinney. I've stated in the past when I've gotten here to chat, I'm in the real estate business, development business. But as a community member, I love this town. I was born here, I lived here. The one thing I worry about with this subject is the fact that, this is where they're looking to do a school and a housing project that was brought up within the city that was necessary or needed or wanted. And even though there's a small population of people that don't like the concept, I really feel like it's in the best interest for a city to grow as opposed to stall out. Because if you're not growing, your city's shrinking, and that makes budgetary issues, cultural issues. So I worry just as a person who loves this place that, if it's this hard to get something done that's maybe it's more simple to me than it should be, but I'm just looking at it as it's a vacant space that makes very little tax revenue. There's 2 uses for it that people generally accept. And if we turn it down too many times, maybe we start running out of times to even talk about it, which is not the way you want to see your town go. It's brought up before. We've had some hits with CMU and reduced population. That's a slide that starts to go, and it's hard to pick up. So, I love this place. I'd like to see more development, get more development going from there. And again, you got to trust the process. I go back to the neighborhood center. I think anybody who lives anywhere near that, if that was done, which I think is very likely, I see it in different places. That's the concept of having like a little store, place to get like necessities. It's walkable. You can bike there. That's a beautiful thing. And I think that's probably pretty likely on that corner if this goes forward. I don't have any say in that, but that's kind of the way that modern housing developments work. And that's why people are changing in other places their zoning to fit that. So just want to bring that up. Again, I love this place. I don't want to see it stall out. And this is an opportunity to continue to get more people like the man from Allen Edmond to come around and at least have the opportunity to do what other towns are trying to do at the same time as us. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Pat Swick, and I live at 1122 Country Way. My husband and I have lived here and raised our 4 kids here. We've been here for 35 years. My husband was the CEO of Central Michigan Hospital and has been employed at CMU for the last 28 years, 30 years. I worked at CMU for 25 years myself. And we've watched this community. I have happy times and not so happy times. And it feels as if we're at a point where we can either remain stagnant and look at the old way and what we've been for this 35 years. Actually, we've lost more than we've gained. This is an opportunity to move forward, to gain something new and exciting, a new school, a new community. All of our colleagues who have left CMU to go to bigger and better places have found little communities where there's walking, where there's stores, where there's shops. It's the thing. It's what young people like, and it's even what older people like, because I'd like to be able to walk to the store, but unfortunately, that's not the case. Where I live now, if there were shops set up there, I could walk there. I could also volunteer at a new school that would be coming in. What I love about the proposal for this particular school is that it's geared for getting kids out into the nature, learning about the environment. I think that fits very well with the values of our community, the values of our city commission. So having a school that has a different twist to it, our kids were in a charter school for a while, and there they learned a lot about basic economics and how to run a business. The particular school that's being proposed is an opportunity to learn about this wonderful creation that we live in, how to appreciate the environment and to support a lot of the good environmental things that have been going on in our community. And I think that there's so much to be done. So it's a new vision. It's a new hope. It's bringing new life. We need it. A lot of the people who are opposed to this aren't going to be here. I'm old too, but I'm all about looking at what's new. It's not about us and those who've been here forever. It's about the new young folks, one of whom spoke, and another couple in the back who have a brand new baby that are excited about this school. It's about the younger generation that we need to foster and we need to feed and we need to grow. And this kind of a community, I would walk there and I would walk that neighborhood and I would be happy to meet young couples and families that are going there. We had Kawadin Village for families before at Central. They tore that down. Now there's no good place for young families to get a good start. When we moved here, the neighborhood we moved into was brand new. There were a lot of new families. We looked for the swing sets. Those were there. It was a wonderful thing to do, wonderful place to raise our kids. So I'd love to give that opportunity to the next generation. And I think we have that opportunity. And now that I know that we have a developer who's excited about the property, it's not like it's going to sit there forever. It's going to happen. We've got an entire group of folks who are interested in creating an exciting new school. There's not many options here. When my husband was CEO of the hospital and as he's worked at CMU all these years, recruitment to Central is difficult for professionals. Having more choices is going to help us to recruit the physicians that we need, the PAs that we need, the professors that we need, because right now there's not a lot to offer. And even when our professors, my husband's on a lot of recruitment committees, when they come in, there's not too many options for people to find a place to stay or to live. So having some fresh new homes right close to within walking distance and biking distance of the university would be also helpful for us to recruit more folks, both the school as well as the neighborhood. And if they could walk their kids to the school and the kids could be learning some new twist on life and developing skills, real skills, I think that that would be also a great draw and a way to revive and refresh and replenish. And all those stores that Mary talked about being closed, well, they're closed because there's no people. If there's no people to use the stores, they've got to close, right? So if we bring more people in, those stores can reopen. I miss 7-Eleven. We used to walk our kids there. I miss what happened on campus with, I can't remember the place that had the great malts, the malt shop, right? And it's gone, but it's gone because we don't have people. We need more people. We need more young people. I love the cultural aspect. Thank you so much for sharing the cultural aspect of having more families. We've worked with a lot of international students who would love to stay here, who are graduate students, who are married or getting married. Let's give them a place to be and let's really revive Mount Pleasant. It's a great place to live and let's keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you. As our next speaker is walking up, if you are on Zoom, just a reminder to use the raised hand function to indicate you'd like to speak. But the in-person speaker, if you want to go ahead and start up.
Good evening. My name's Tim Beebe. Address is 2257 East Broomfield Road, that's 1/4 of a mile east of, or excuse me, west of the property that we're talking about. So talking about traffic, one of the people that came up earlier made an excellent point. I wish I would have thought of it so that I could have said it, is that if there was a school put in here, we'd actually have a school speed limit zone. I have tried to get the speed limit on Broomfield lowered. And I go to the road commission and they tell me, no, that's the state police. You go to the state police and they say there isn't enough accidents. Well, we just had an accident in front of my business with one of my work trucks trying to turn left, and a young lady hit my work truck at 60 miles an hour. What she was doing 60 miles an hour from Lincoln Road to the top of that hill, I have no idea, but that traffic needs to slow down. I don't care what slows it down. I don't care if it's a school. Let's just get the traffic to slow down. It's a dangerous place along there, and I would love to see that. So I'd also like to see the school of choice. I happen to be one of those parents that had 3 daughters, and I chose a parochial school system. So where my kids grew up in Bay City, we had 7 or 8 different choices. Here in Mount Pleasant, there's one. Really, only one. I would like to give families that opportunity that we had. Why didn't I move across? Well, the kids were in the school system, the schools that I wanted them in. So I drove back and forth so that I could keep my kids in that school. They went to Faith Lutheran and then they went to Valley Lutheran. And I have one doctor, one vet, and one daughter that is the instructional person for medical transcriptionists. They've all done well. Was it specifically that school? Could they have gotten that same education? Perhaps, but it was a much more controlled environment. And it was our choice. Give the community the ability to have that choice. As far as the arguments, I've been in this community for about 30 years. And I've watched this piece of property over time. There was a development that was proposed that had a mixed use. It had some of the residential businesses. It had multifamily. It had individual homes. It had duplexes. And the PRD had a requirement that there had to be open space. So instead of just setting it aside, they proposed it as a golf course. It's open space, but at least it was being used for something. After months, it was finally accepted. And then there was a group in the city that got together and had it overturned. There's been other projects on that proposed for that piece of property, and every time a project comes up, they rally the troops. And what you're going to end up with is that same field that has been there for the 30 years that I've been here. And take a look at how many, you keep talking about taxes. How much taxes have you gotten on farm fields over the last 30 years? I was at meetings where this same board, not these same people, but this same board said taxes and revenue are not to be part of the decision. It's what Mount Pleasant needs, not necessarily the money.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commission. My name is Ed Peters. I'm the owner of 3 of the 5 parcels that are under consideration for this proposed rezoning. I've been involved in this thing for decades, and you know, I want to bring up the fact that on the 24th, November 24th, 25, we had a joint work session with the Planning Commission, landowners, and the City Commission, and most of you folks were here. And we listened to your concerns. One, footprint for the school was much too big. We said, okay, we'll reduce it by 5 acres. You said, that's not enough. That if we could figure out how to reduce it by 10 acres, you folks would support it. So we figured out a way to do, Mr. Beebe is the one that figured out a way to do that. The other thing was a big concern was affordable single-family residential housing. We've got Allen Edwin Homes under contract. They're ready to go, contingent upon zoning. So I like to thank Mrs. Nostine because she let me use this visual aid. That was nice of her. I just wanted to bring up the fact that this is under contract for residential homes, affordable, single-family residential homes. I own this piece back here, which upon you guys' approval, hopefully tonight, my plans are to immediately start the permitting process so I can pull this drive in and open this up for more single-family residential homes. Also, this piece right here that's left over from West Point, under this proposed rezoning, this comes in single-family residential homes. So it's not just this, it's this, this, this. Also, the fact of neighborhood commercial, it reduces traffic. That's a fact, okay? If you go to Midland, they have neighborhood commercial. The people over here in Country Way or whatever the subdivision over here, the apartments, all these residential, they can walk, they can ride their bike. That reduces traffic. So anyway, the university under this proposal in the future, if they ever do anything with this or convey this property, it comes through, it reverts back to residential single-family homes. So the majority of this, you're gonna have 20-acre school, 7-acre corner, the rest of it's residential housing. So I just wanted to clarify that with you guys. And I urge you to please, I'm afraid Mr. Deal over here, they've already been working on this for almost 10 months now, working with Manuela, with your planners. They can easily, if we don't get this thing approved tonight, they can go to Claire, they can go to Elma. They don't have to be here. And I'd be ashamed for this community to lose an opportunity for this gentleman and his company to get something going here. So we get this thing approved tonight, I will work on this residential parcel immediately. This one immediately. Okay? If do you guys got any questions or anything? Or?
Can't ask questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. After this next speaker, we'll turn to online hands if there's any that's raised.
My name is Renee Papillion. I live at 1408 North Drive. And I have lived in Mount Pleasant a little over 50 years. And I have to say, I love living in Mount Pleasant. I love the city. And one of the foundational issues of what I do love about Mount Pleasant is the foundation of being inclusive, and that the stability of fairness within our city has been, I think, a great legacy. To have educational choices for families that desire to send their children or their child to a school that aligns with what they feel that they would like to have their child go to, I think is a tremendous foundation to continue the fairness of what Mount Pleasant, at least what I have seen in my time here, a little over 50 years, of being a wonderful community that really places stability and a sense of fairness throughout the whole city. So I just want to share that I've spoken with quite a few families, young families, that this opportunity for a private school is not a either or, it is an and that allows another choice to bring fairness to all families who would like to be able to make a choice on where they send their children to school. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I know that there's other people in person. I am going to switch first to to online speakers, and then we'll circle back if there's anyone else who would like to speak in person. But at this time, is there anyone with a raised hand on Zoom? Gotcha. Who was the first person you're calling on, Jason? Astronaut?
Yeah, it's Ashley. I'm sorry.
Ashley Petrasha.
Yes, I'm Ashley. I live at 114 North Lansing Street. And I think there should be residential building. Even the mixed, I'm all right with. I don't understand why you need 20 acres of CZ zoning. And why any of the residential building should be even held up by any of that, since it sounded like the previous agreement allowed for residential building. So that's a little confusing to me. Like, there's been nothing holding up or preventing any of these people or businesses from building residential, except for the owners, I guess, who are selling the land. So yes, I don't like the CZ, and I don't think that you should be pressured into hurrying into making any decisions, because ultimately it has to be what's right for our city. And that's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else on Zoom at this time with a raised hand? Okay, moving back to in-person speakers.
Martin Notstein, 1361 South Crawford. I'll be really quick. Did I use too many words previously? Yes. But I want you to vote for more homes for 2050. I want you to say, we're going to use that entire 20 acres and the 15 acres for new single-family homes. Schools can be built anywhere, just like the school that's just around the corner on Crawford. And I've taken pictures that I've shown you on M20 and on Lincoln. There's empty property everywhere around the city. The city can't buy more land for building new homes. So we need this land for the homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience at this time who would like to give public comment? Please step up. And if there's no queue formed behind her, we'll consider this the last speaker for public comment.
Hello, my name is Danal Mohammed. I live over at 1413 Cross Lane Street. I just wanted to say that I feel like I echo a lot of what some people have said here, and that we love Mount Pleasant. We want Mount Pleasant to move forward. If that means giving families another path to education that they want to allow their children to be a part of, I think that's a really good idea. I think having neighborhood commercial space as well as having homes, I think that'd be really beneficial overall for Mount Pleasant as well. I don't think, while money is very important, I don't think we should always look at this as, okay, well, the school is going to be another tax exempt establishment. I think that really and truly puts the future of some of the children that want to attend that school. It boils it down to something very minimalistic, and it's not very fair, I think. I think if there's housing and there's neighborhood commercial space and there's a school, I think that can only benefit Mount Pleasant, of the people that live here and the people that may want to move here and the people that are here temporarily and might want to stay and make it their home. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. And turning back to the members of the commission. At this time, are there any questions before a motion is made? Discussions? Commissioner Alsager.
Well, we've heard from a variety of different opinions going on, but to have one of the owners of the property say even tonight that he's willing to change and create even more housing than what we thought, that's pretty impressive.
Is there a motion you'd like to make then at that?
You asked for a comment, that was a comment.
Questions was primarily it. Questions for staff.
Are we able to ask Mr. Beal a question? If not, that's okay. Just curious.
One second. If you'd like to, pose like questions or concerns, don't want to get into an extended back and forth is the big thing.
I just have like. So my question to you, Mr. Beal, is your organization has kind of pledged to make these affordable homes. And I feel like that is a challenge, giving so many factors I won't even get into. But my question is, what does your organization do to try to provide housing that's affordable, especially to this area? I guess I'm looking for kind of steps or procedures or really any insight to what your organization does to keep those costs affordable.
Go to the microphone.
That is going to be a long answer. So in the interest of keeping it minimal right now, the reality is we're at the starting gate still. We just basically have the project, the property under agreement. We've done some internal thought, scrawled out some internal thoughts, looked at it at a high level. The zoning has got to get the first step, the very first step, and then we still have months of work after that. Here's what I'll tell you about our organization, though, it is on a larger overview about affordability. Our company, in conjunction with the Lieutenant Governor, made a pledge that over the next 10 years, we're going to build 2,500 affordable homes in the state of Michigan at a rate of about 250 homes a year. We would love to be able to participate in finding more opportunities like that. What my principal job is meeting folks like Ed Peters and looking for those opportunities at a high level, and then reaching out to various people. Greater Gratiot is one of the local areas, Mid-Michigan Development Corporation, great partner that we reached out to. And it's going to take a partnership of all those different groups and partnership with the city to be able to figure that out. What we bring to the table is we bring the ability to build 1,500 homes a year over 3 different states, Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. So we've had the disparate experience of working in markets that maybe don't get as much attention. We bring the engineering, the marketing know-how, and we perform a lot of that stuff in-house so that we can manage that very closely. And so as we move through the coming months, when we get to a final resolution on zoning, we'll be able to unpack more of what we see as ideas for this. But I would just really like to say again, our experience so far with the different folks that we've worked with regionally really gives us a lot of hope that we're going to be able to do good things here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Ake, questions at this time before a motion is made? Make sure.
No, go ahead, please.
Oh, before you took a vote, I just wanted to clarify one point now that we're past the public hearing, because before we were initially discussing the agenda modification. So I just wanted to go back, since we're kind of at that voting stage, about what the motion what the motion is that was presented by Manuela. So just a point of clarification, so just bear with me here. So under section 154.614F, upon termination of a PRD, the property covered converts to a special district unless or until the zoning classification is changed, and that's pursuant to section 154.616. If you go to that section, section 154.616, subsection B11, following the public hearing, the city commission may adopt the proposed amendment with such changes as it deems appropriate. So that's what I was trying to relay earlier. I just wanted to give you those sections. And the reason the amendment is before you the way it is because it just clarifies what Manuela pointed out, which was that the intention was always to be residential slash dwelling only. And that conforms with, I believe it's section 154.203 subsection G. That specifically states that any zoning amendment can take on any kind of special requirement. The residential slash dwelling use only is one of those. So we were just clarifying it. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear because we were talking about an agenda revision and now we're talking about the actual vote. So I hope that clears up what I was trying to relay earlier.
Vice Mayor, you had a question before a motion is made?
Actually,
Or
the
clarification?
attorney's comment addresses my question because suddenly it was not clear what we were doing, what the vote was all about, because everybody was talking about the school and all of these things. And I'm sitting back here saying, I don't think that's what we're trying to do. So thank you for doing that. So I think it seems to me that the focus is to vote on this rezoning, not anything else, whether you put 20 schools there or 30 schools there or 100, buildings there, that's not the issue at this moment. I'm trying to make this clear for myself because given all the comments, it became a little bit muddled, just so that we are sure that we're voting on.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely correct. It did get a little muddled, but I think what you just said is exactly what you guys are supposed to be doing, is focusing on the rezoning specifically.
Thank you.
I do have a question regarding some clarification. We've gotten a lot of information between November and the meeting in July and this current meeting with the public hearing. How much of that southwest parcel is exactly included in the PRD? Could you clarify, please, Manuela?
Yeah, so we have 5 parcels in the area, in the 157 acres. And then out of the 5, 4 were in the original PRD of 2000. So the corner site was not included in the original PRD agreement, but all of them are zoned PRD today.
Could you clarify which corner, the northeast corner is it? Or the?
Yeah, so the immediate corner southwest of Crawford Broomfield.
Yeah, thank you.
I can pull the map back, but yeah.
Please pull up the map.
So, yeah, so it would be parcel, let me just look at a map with the parcel numbers here.
I believe it's parcel C.
So, yeah, it's parcel C, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to be clear because we have heard some comments from some of our residents regarding their concern with commercial property being right there. If I look at the layout for the rest of the schools inside of town, Pullen, there's no commercial near there. Bowles, there's no commercial. The high school, they're all specifically in residential area. So I think there's some valid concerns with the businesses that are further down on Broomfield and then potential development of that parcel C. So I know that the dissolution and the rezoning is contingent upon the approval of all of the parcels and rezoning of all of it. And I know with that one being separate initially, what type of avenues that we have for moving forward with rezoning and with those 4 parcels that were originally part of the PRD.
Yeah, so the PRD dissolution agreement includes the 4 parcels, excludes that parcel because it never entered into the agreement, but the zoning designation for that parcel is still PRD. So if the city commission would like to move that parcel to hardline zoning, that's one avenue that you would take is through this rezoning. I just want to clarify the mixed-use nature of that parcel as part of this planning commission proposal comes from the master plan future land use map. So that's the kind of the tool that we use to be able to say CD4 is what the community wants because it placed the neighborhood node on that parcel under a mixed-use low designation, the future land use map.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're being clear with all of the options that we have regarding the rezoning. Since there is concern from numerous residents in that area, the change in the traffic, just the entire makeup with potential development of commercial on that corner. So is that a possibility? Could we dissolve the PRD with those 4 out of 5 parcels and not rezone that? Could we still, is that an option since those 4 parcels make up the PRD for that to be dissolved and to look at the rezoning of that parcel separately? Is that an option?
Yes, I would say the corner parcel could be separated, right? The PRD dissolution agreement that was approved includes the other 4. There is a portion, however, of that corner parcel that's included in this rezoning, which is the portion used by Allen Edwin Homes for their potential site plan. So the 15 acres does come with 4.65 acres of that parcel for housing only. So in theory, if it was precisely the original boundaries that we have on the map with the 12-acre being separate, in theory, we could separate it, but the way it is because of that 15-acre parcel that got created, we have an overlap. So I'm not sure. I think the city attorney just looking for, guidance here too.
I would say that this is the best avenue for rezoning it, given the history of the property and how it kind of got looped into the greater, PRD agreement. I think how many years ago we tracked it back, but this is probably the best avenue to rezone it at this point, given kind of where its placement is and that overlap, like Manuela stated.
Yeah. Hopefully that helps, but yeah, let me know if you have questions. Just on traffic, I think obviously those concerns are very legit, and we have the ability to ask for traffic studies if it's something that would be really heavily generating vehicle traffic. The Planning Commission has the ability to ask for a traffic study, and nonetheless, every single development that will come into play over here will have to involve the County Road Commission for our review team and pre-application meeting process. And if it does trigger an increase in lane or anything like that, or an intersection or a signal change or anything related to the road, we can add that as a condition of approval of the use, which is basically what happened to like Walmart when it came to Union Township area. It did trigger an expansion of the road to be able to take care of traffic. So we can't take care of traffic concerns before we know precisely what's being proposed. But once we do have that, we have already an avenue to have those discussions with the engineers from the City County Road Commission, and then Planning Commission even able to request additional studies if needed.
Okay, that relieves some of my concerns. When I hear using a school as a speed control device, it kind of throws a flag for me. Apologies. I get your frustrations 100%, whatever it takes to slow things down. I've bore witness to individuals losing their lives outside of my own home, and it can be very traumatic. So I'm not trying to make light of your concerns, sir. I don't take it slightly.
Oh, yeah, if it's something I can mention here, just as a clarification, I get questions all the time from the public about the Mission Street Improvement Plan, and folks asking, why don't we just reduce the speed limits, right? And it sounds very simple, but the way engineering works, we require, so the state requirements an 85th percentile study to check how fast people drive, and then the speed limits is set based on how fast people drive. So sometimes we need to get a little creative on how we can get to a lower speed, which I think it's what the speaker was trying to allude to. So a use like a school does trigger that immediately. So it's kind of a tool that can be used, if I may, in the same way that on Mission Street, our goal to basically have the shared use pathway, add more trees and landscaping, and create that sense of place will eventually have folks driving slowly because they're afraid of hitting a pedestrian, you're afraid of hitting a bicycle. And that reduction in speed will eventually lead to a reduction in the posting speed by MDOT. So sometimes you just have to get creative, go the chicken and the egg, situation a different way. But that's our experience. We've been looking into this for 4 years, and I think that's what it gets to,
Yeah, that's completely understood. I do have one other question though regarding how we got to this situation where we've got this other parcel that's looped into another one that's kind of tying our hands. I was having a hard time logging into my computer because the password need to be updated and they're like 42 characters long. So anybody that deals with a city computer is going to laugh at that because it's frustrating when it all of a sudden in the middle of a meeting because you're on the city website or internet. But can somebody educate me like who it was that passed the motion in November to change all that zoning so that way we could be in that that got us there? I know that there was discussion, but I don't remember like a motion being made and how it was followed through.
Yeah, so for the November 24, 2025 joint work session, that was basically a city staff recommendation to put the Planning Commission, City Commission together to discuss. And that's because the Planning Commission had the rezoning proposal in 2024, got that rezoning to the City Commission, who ended up having a pretty split vote. It was a 4-3 vote. So when we get into situations like that we have completely different opinions on the same subject matter, we usually put the joint work sessions together to get the planning, in this case, planning and city commission. Could be parks and city commission, could be ZBA and planning commission if we're talking about zoning tax changes that may be warranted. So that's just common practice from the city. So at that point, we scheduled a meeting and we had the previous, everybody from the city commission. I know you and Commissioner Demarath were in there at that time, but we.
I was.
Oh, you were. Yeah,
Yes,
that's
yes.
right. Okay.
That's
Yeah,
kind
so
of
Commissioner
asking,
Demarath, wasn't
where
there.
the motion was made for the rezoning.
Okay.
because I saw in the packet that we're the ones that filed for the rezoning.
So to reduce the acreage and
Yeah.
all of that, right?
So I'm
Yeah,
just-
so there was a very lengthy discussion.
There
And
was.
as the consultants that were moderating that discussion, as they walked you through the different stages and options. So the very first option was leave status quo. Is that what we want? And then that's not where the Planning and City Commission wanted to go. So then he went to the second stage. Do we want to amend the 2024 proposal? And that's where most of the discussion sat. At that discussion, there was a point made about too much civic zone. We need more for housing. And then the 5 acres was, I don't know who exactly made that potential idea, maybe Commissioner Ake, okay? And then everybody felt comfortable. I remember Commissioner Rawlings making remarks about that, and that would be something that Commissioner Rawlings would support, and I believe the others follow that. So at the very end, the moderation with the consultants, they highlighted what had been agreed upon. They even put it on the slide and put the information, reduce 5 acres and keep everything as originally proposed. So from there, we had a memorandum from the consulting group stating exactly that, reduction of 5 acres. And then from there, the City Commission decided to have a follow-up discussion at the December meeting. So then at the December meeting, there was more discussion. And actually, in the end of that joint work session, Commissioner Ake suggested reducing 10. But that was kind of inconclusive. We weren't sure if that was going to be agreed upon by the owners. So what was agreed upon is reducing 5, but then with the question, can we go to 10? So we took a long time with drawings. I myself left my entire holiday season just to draw and try to fit everything that I knew the developers wanted to fit and fit more housing in. So that's how we created this alternative proposal. It was after a lot of work on my end and with the engineering team from the developer team as well to make sure that the 21 acres could be agreed upon,
CMU could have an easier way to put housing through fair change. And then the commercial corner is something that the owner suggested in order to bring even more housing in. So it was a lot of work with a lot of people to collaborate and find a solution that would match the 10-acre reduction that all of you wanted to see.
Right. I appreciate all the work that you've put into this. I really do. And I feel like it's our duty to make sure that we're being very vigilant in the questions that we ask. And I know that I've asked some questions regarding what was allowed in the contract that was guiding the PRD and what was allowed in there. Looking at one of the packet from the end of July meeting, there's a couple pages in there around 103 that talks about the open space use. And it seemed like there were some lines in there that would allow schools to be built inside the PRD, along with probably most of the housing plans that they're looking at putting forth, assuming all this goes forward. So that's why I was just kind of a little confused as far as why we need to go through all of this when we could have just put the plans forward if it's already allowed in the contract.
Yeah. So I know the public had questions about that too. The PRD as a process is the problem. So the allowable uses are pretty much the same than what we have today, except for that commercial addition on the corner. But the process is the part that I always mention: streamlining American Planning Association goals and objectives, and EDCRC, suggestions as well for us to show that we're redevelopment ready. Because the PRD requires hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of investment before you know that you can build. It requires attorney fees on both the city side and the developer side. So we're spending money as well to be able to have a very intense negotiation process on a discretionary action. With hardline zoning, we have all the rules in the book. So there are no questions asked. There's no discretion. We're simply following the rules that are in the book that we approved after public hearings. So yeah, if there's anything that you ever want me to look at in the city zoning ordinance to make development even better, I'm happy to do that. But I think the big question here is, do we want to apply the zoning ordinance, or we want to continue this unpredictable and negotiation-heavy process that hasn't worked for the past 40 years? So that's why the department and the Planning Commission is highly trying to find a solution that everybody agrees with. It's a win-win. And I always say that, for, at least on my opinion, on decisions like this, I'm always trying to find a balance in a way that everything supports each other, as opposed to think about like this is a no to that, right? Or winners and losers. So I usually show excitement because I worked a lot on this to try to find those win-wins. And I just really think this is very positive. I really truly believe professionally that this is a very positive addition because it creates a new complete neighborhood, which is what our master plan and zoning ordinance asked for since 2018 when we approved it. And being able to deliver this option for all of you tonight is just, I'm happy to be able to do that. Sorry that I spoke too much, but.
Not at all. Not at all. No, I appreciate your hard work on that. And after speaking with one of our development champions in the area, it was kind of explained to me that developers prefer to deal with that black and white rather than having any type of gray area to have to navigate through.
And I would say our black and white is pretty hard to comply with. We have tons of really detailed design-oriented requirements that I have an architecture and urban design background. And this is the state-of-the-art zoning ordinance that you could have to ask for high-quality developments. So personally, I'm very excited with the idea of seeing this ordinance actually come into fruition, because with infill development, we don't really see it much, but with a large development like this, we will really put the zoning ordinance into effect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Other questions before a motion is made, seeking clarification or information? Okay. Thank you, Director Paladigo. Okay. At this time, is there a motion that a member of the commission would like to put forward? Commissioner Perschbacher.
I motion that we adopt the zoning map amendment Z 2601 as proposed with the condition that the termination of the planned residential development agreement be updated to specifically convey the special requirement residential dwelling use only on paragraph 2, applicable to parcels 17,000, 17,300, 0017, 000173050, and the portion of the parcels 17,000 and 17,30600 proposed to be zoned to CD4 with the residential dwelling use only special requirement so that the PRD dissolution agreement is in alignment with the proposed Z 2601 zoning map amendment.
Second. Motion was made by Commissioner Perschbacher and seconded by Commissioner Rollins. I'm not going to restate the motion. It is printed in front of everyone. It is quite lengthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. At this time, it will just allow for discussion from members of the commission. If there's any discussion to be had before approval or voting upon the motion. Let's see. Was that a hand raised by Vice Mayor Akin?
May I ask the attorney a question? This question, this
Yep,
is.
keep it
pertains-
contained,
no,
yeah.
It's contained.
Yeah.
It pertains to this. I want to make sure that the language is clear. You initially stated that the city commission can adopt the motion with the stipulated or at least the identified changes or modifications. I
Yeah.
want this
Yes, that is what I stated,
into
yes.
public document, that the modifications are going to be made.
Yes.
Because that determines how I vote today. My
Absolutely.
concern is having a document that is not clear. I want the language to be clear that it is going to be residential/dwelling uses only.
Yes.
As we intend, and that is what's going to appear in all the documents representing this particular agreement.
Absolutely, and I believe that Manuela did an excellent job displaying that in the contract that was presented in your packet. Those 3 areas that are highlighted was where that vague language was, and it didn't align with the exhibit that was presented. And so, thanks to the mayor, it was brought to our attention that there was that discrepancy, and now it aligns. So that highlighted language will be adopted based off of this motion.
Okay. And as you indicated, the city commission can vote to adopt to implement the dissolution with the stipulation that the changes will be implemented. Okay, that's the option that we have. There are several options.
Yes,
but
there are
that's the
several
one that
options.
you are, okay.
Mhm.
All right, I want to make sure that that's very, very clear so that we don't have any quibbles 2 days or 3 days or 4 weeks from now.
And I will just, I'll recite it just to hold myself accountable, right? So it should be under section 154, and I'm gonna find it right now, 154.616 subsection B11. That's where it states that you have the authority to make this kind of motion
Okay.
when you're adopting a zoning modification.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Alsager?
Yeah, well, and I was pleased when I was listening to Commissioner Perschbacher use that specific language of residential dwelling uses only. So I think we had that covered. So I'll be voting for it.
Gotcha. Other members of the commission? Taking a moment for myself, yes. My concern, I think, back in 2024, this item was brought to us, and this same debate that we're watching play out today was occurring then. And it was something, we hear the term PRD and PRD agreements, and for us, especially, these are largely archaic terms because they're a holdover from old forms of zoning, that this is the last actual section of that within our community. So there was the whiplash of learning about all that. I think that the desire for greater amounts of housing being represented within the community, I think that desire is being carried out in this updated compromise proposal that has occurred. At the time that we originally voted down the rezoning and by extension, the dissolution of the PRD agreement back in 2024, the same arguments that were made then that, we're not we're preventing additional housing from being brought into the community. Here we are 2 years later, and we're working after additional discussion, additional work, hard work by the members of city staff to take into and incorporate our feedback and take in and incorporate discussions that we have between the Planning Commission and the City Commission. We have seen a proposal that has increased the amount of housing that's accommodated in these parcels. In fact, the very specific 15 acres that are being discussed by Edwin Allen Homes previously wasn't in the original proposal. It is the seeking for changes and modifications that resulted in where we are today. So I am excited by the opportunity to see the development. I think anyone who's been in a community or engaged in local development long enough is always concerned that when you're talking about rezoning that, hey, the planning, the proposed houses that are out there really is just it's just a feint, it might not actually exist, it might not come to fruition or something. But I have appreciated that in this instance, we have seen already, just over a short period of time, a lot of engagement from Edwin Allen Homes. I have enjoyed seeing the fact that we and talking with other stakeholders that no, this isn't something that just kind of came out of nowhere. There's been stakeholders within our community who have been attempting to bring and court Edwin Allen Homes and bring them in here for quite some time. So I do appreciate seeing that. Going back to my addition to the agenda, my original discussion or my original desire to rescind our decision to approve the contract that took place at our last meeting in July is not based off of opposition to the contents. It's not based off of opposition to the contents of what we are looking at here today. It is primarily focused on the process. We have a contract before us. We have other contracts with in the city where parts of that contract are spelled out in exhibits that it took months to dig up what was said in that exhibit and start working with the companies that we contract with to get them to actually start performing all of their duties and make sure we're getting all of the proper reporting. The concern over the contract and the process and the language being used was my primary concern in bringing that forward. So I don't want to leave here today hearing that the mayor is opposed to housing. One of the most significant legal fights that we had when I first came onto the city commission was over the discrepancy in a deed of public use versus public purpose. And everyone at that time, when we purchased Mount Pleasant Center property, knew exactly what the city's intention was with that property. And that was about over 10, probably close to 15 years ago at this point that we purchased that property. But we have gone through several different rounds of legal negotiation. And according to the state of Michigan, no, the actual in the book language is what stands. So that is where my concern comes from. That is the mindset that I was approaching this from when I realized what was going on with the contract. Having every reassurance from our city attorney that we are in the clear to be able to approve the contract in this manner, or not approve the contract, but to approve the rezoning, I would feel comfortable voting in favor of the motion at this time. I want to check in with other members who haven't had a chance to speak at this time. Other members would be, let's see. So I believe I have Hirschbacher, Demarath, Rollins and Sklitsky, I don't believe have had a chance to speak since the motion has been made. So turning to other members.
I made the motion.
Okay. If you wanted to say anything, the option was there for you is what is being said right now.
I personally feel like my questions could easily be construed as being in opposition of this development. I've had some questions regarding how we can go about making the entirety of that property available for residential housing. That's been my priority and my concern since the beginning of this was proposed to us back in November, because it seemed clear to me that through the use of the contract that's guiding the PRD, it seemed like those options were available. And I have tried to champion the use of the entirety of that property for more and more housing as much as possible. That's why I've questioned the amount of use of the amount of property that's being turned over to Civic Zone, in regards to the amount that is laid out in our zoning guidelines. The fact that it's 20% of the property, which makes up the high end of the requirements of CD4 zoning. I'm all for housing in Mount Pleasant. We need more of it. We need more of affordable. Some of the processes have been, parts of this have not been exactly crystalline for me. There is a lot of information to disseminate. There's a lot of overlapping contracts, a lot of ordinances, a lot of zoning. There's a lot to it. So I just want to make sure that my stance on being for all of it going towards housing is clear, and we've agreed to dissolve the PRD. So at this point in time, our decision is, do we zone it for housing? And yes, I think we do.
Commissioner Rollins, were you indicating you wanted to speak?
No, I have no
Okay.
further comment.
Okay.
I'm in line with what Brian is saying. I think trying to get the most land for housing is what we need in the city. That's a huge campus for a city, and there's a lot of residents that are opposed to commercial. I think the vision is there, and I hope that whatever happens, that vision comes to fruition and happens. But I think opening it up doesn't always mean you're gonna get what you think you're gonna get. Yeah, so I hope that it becomes what everybody envisions it as, a new little center where it's a walkable community. I hope that it doesn't reflect what the rest of our city looks like. We don't have a very walkable city, and I hope this is a change. I, however, am not so optimistic that that will happen, and I do believe that we should be looking at this to develop as much housing as we need to, and taking those acreages out could hinder that. So, thank you.
Commissioner Alasager, and then
I just have one other comment. It's maybe before some of these members were on the board, but recently we passed 3 other housing rezonings. One is downtown, one is on Chippewa Street, and one's by McGuire School, and those are all for housing developments.
Vice Mayor Ake, did you still wish to speak?
I'm practically exhausted, you know. I mean, I understand, for me, I think, in the past, I have generally stated that, I don't like the CZ, component. And in fact, in November, I asked a question about that. What happens, with that. And part of the, the facilitator's comments was we could remove that or, discuss it in relation with everything else. I am supportive of the rezoning because, or at least the dissolution of the PRD, because it is important. as, people have indicated, residents have indicated, we do need to have some progress. And also that the old PRD structure did not permit the construction of certain, buildings, like the single family housing that we've been talking about. And I think that is important to think about. The reality is that regardless of what we do or how we look at this, no one is going to be completely pleased, right? And so, as the attorney has indicated, this is a negotiation. We are negotiating, what is acceptable for each group. And I do hope that, we come to that understanding that this community is for all of us. It's not, it is not primarily for a certain group of people, excluding others. And I've heard that particular language articulated a number of times where there is signaling that, oh, perhaps certain groups of people are not being considered. I don't think that's the case. I do think that it is important to recognize that for those of us sitting here, I've been thinking about this for a long time. I am not kidding. All through today, I thought about this. I thought about this last week. I've been thinking about this for quite a long time. The implications for the city, that we have a responsibility to the city, to the residents. Who do you please and who do you displease? It is a negotiation. What is best for the city? Depending on your position, each of these, more housing, yes. Schools plus cultural centers and a whole range of things, absolutely. And so, in other words, for me, what is important is how we address this particular need. There are needs at both ends, and that's what I am seeing, and that's what I'm reading here. At the same time, I do think that we need to recognize, I want to just use the word respect, right? We need to respect the positions of, different people, right? Eventually, after all this conversation, what happens? We are all going to live in this city. And so that is what is of interest to me. I'm going to support it, even though I have some grudging, some really, pain aches here. I'm going to support the dissolution because I think we do need to move forward. There's need for us to have some housing. We may not necessarily get the number of housing or houses that we want. I don't know what the ideal is, but we are going to get some housing. And I'm also going to support it, trusting that the attorney here will make sure that the document represents what we're saying and that the parties that are involved in this conversation will actually do what they have said that they are going to do. There has to be trust somehow. Otherwise, what are we doing? Okay, so question for you then, does that invalidate item number 15? Maybe this is not the time to talk about that, but it is there.
I would
wait till later.
Wait till the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Any other discussion on this topic before the vote is called on this? Okay. This is an ordinance, if I recall correctly from last time around on this, it is a roll call vote. Looking to Clerk Schmelzer.
Commissioner Skiletsky,
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins.
Yes.
Commissioner Alsager,
Yes.
Commissioner Demara,
No.
Commissioner Perschbacher,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ekke,
Yes.
Mayor Wingard.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. That brings us into item number 13, public hearing to allow for public input and to consider proposed amendment to table 154.405.a of the zoning ordinance as it relates to SDU University Special District rules. Director Paladino, if you would give us a bit of an explanation here.
Yeah, so I have the same slides that I presented last time, but just for the sake of the public. So this zoning tax change, Z TC 2602 does accompany the rezoning, and it's basically a zoning text amendment so that the SDU, the Special District University designation on CMU owned parcel, can be automatically CD3 for the purpose of housing development should CMU sell the land to developer. And this is the timeline, and this is concurrent. Let me know if you have questions. That's it.
Gotcha. If that's the end of your presentation, question for you then. So if the university were to sell their property in any capacity, essentially if it was no longer owned by the university itself, it would revert to the CD3 zoning on there.
Yeah.
If they were to lease property out, or if they were, again, if they didn't relinquish ownership in the meantime, they still have the control to do what they wish with that property.
Yeah.
Irrespective
same.
of the city's wishes or zoning.
Yeah, same as other CMU-owned parcels.
Okay.
Mhm.
Other members with questions for staff before we open up to the public hearing? No? Okay. At this time, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing to allow for public input and to consider proposed amendment to table 154.405.A of the zoning ordinance as it relates to SDU University Special District rules. If you are a member of the public and would like to speak on this topic, please step up to the microphone. You'll be given 5 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record. If you are on Zoom, please use the raised hand function to indicate that you would like to speak.
Hello, my name is Jessica Carrion. I live on 109 North Arnold Street. So I spent so much time writing the last speech. I don't have anything for this one, to be quite honest. But I did have something to say, which is just in general. I said this at the Planning Commission, that like the only thing I wish about this was that it wasn't defaulted to CD3. My only wish was that I could default to CD4 instead. As CD4 property, you can still build CD3, but if you make it CD3, it could only be CD3, never go up. Commissioner, I'll say you're kind of beat me to it talking about the previous upzoning that we've had recently, where we upzoned one property to CD5 and we upzoned 2 properties to CD4. I understand the concern for housing. I understand the need. But even then, one problem just causes the next problem. I just want to remind this commission back to that conversation where we had actual teachers coming in concerned about the overpopulated schools already with all this additional housing coming in, right? It's just, and I'm not saying a private school is going to solve that, right? I'm not saying the CDU property defaulting to CD3 is going to solve anything, but like the idea is that there's constant problems, and it's like, I think this is a win. I think a lot of this is going to just go in the positive, and it really sucks, because this is exactly why I want to be a planning commissioner and a ZBA member over what you guys deal with. So you guys deal with all the emotional baggage, whereas the other positions is just, we're talking law, right? We're just talking what's black and white in the books. So no, I get what's going on here. I understand. And quite frankly, I want to thank everyone here. If all of you were voting yes blindly and voting the same, what's the point of having a board? I'm happy to see a board that's voting like this, that's asking all the questions that need to be asked. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Other members of the public, please step up to the microphone at this time if you'd like to speak, and please form a queue if you are interested. Is there anyone on Zoom with a raised hand? Any emails? You know, I'm gonna ask. No one has stepped up to the microphone to speak at this time on the public hearing, so I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing on the amendment as noted. Turning to the members of the commission, are there any questions for staff before a motion is made? Would anyone consider making a motion at this time? Commissioner Perschbacher.
I motion that the city commission adopt the proposed text change of TC 2602 at today's meeting, August
Second.
24th.
Motion made by Commissioner Perschbacher and seconded by Commissioner Rollins to adopt the text change. Once again, is there any discussion on this topic before moving into a vote? Once again, I believe a roll call vote is needed for this. Clerk Schmelzer, if you'd call.
Commissioner Perschbacher,
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins,
Yes.
Commissioner Sklitsky,
Yes.
Commissioner Alsager,
Yes.
Commissioner Demarath,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ekke,
Yes.
Mayor Wingard.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. Okay. That brings us into new business. First item of new business, it was added to the agenda through, with the motion from Commissioner Sklitsky. It was to consider directing staff to put forward a analysis and comparison of, I believe, current bidding and purchasing procedures, contracting language from the city of Mount Pleasant with those presented in packets previously presented to the city commission concerning responsible contracting language or responsible contracting ordinances. Is there any addition to that?
Yes, looking into ways that we can adjust our bidding process, actually looking at ways we can develop our own labor pool for capital improvement projects. I began to realize that we are handcuffed by a lot of preemption laws that were written 15-ish years ago, which limits what municipalities can do with our tax dollars when we're spending them on improvements. Looking into things a little bit further, reaching out to individuals in the AFL-CIO, other trade representatives and leaders. Several municipalities have began to develop responsible contractor ordinances. What this does, it looks at more of a quality end result type of outcome rather than strictly cost analysis and lowest bidding practices. There's several things that are taken into consideration with those ordinances, including safety ratings, references from prior work, how much labor is employed locally. Bay City has actually just voted 8-2 to include any contractor that participates in prevailing wage, gets an additional bonus. So there's various aspects of those ordinances that we may be able to adopt to empower us as a municipality when it comes to spending our dollars and including other contractors in our bidding process.
Gotcha. So I believe you were considering, again, it was considering
An analysis
it was considering
between,
motion for it and everything.
yeah, a motion to consider an analysis between our current practices and what was presented in the responsible contractors ordinances in last meeting's packet.
Second.
Okay. Motion made by Commissioner Sklitsky and seconded by Commissioner Demarath to, again, direct staff to create a comparison analysis between our practices and those previously those in the materials previously presented previously. Any questions or discussion on this? Vice Mayor Ekke?
I think it's important to do this. It gives us a sense of, what we do. And if we want to be inclusive, as, we've been saying that we want to be inclusive, it might be, I think it's useful to have an analysis to see where there are gaps, and if there are gaps in our practices, look at ways of improving, and, after all, the goal is to make sure that, we engage in, really fair practices, right? And, at this moment, my colleague is not suggesting that, we engage in robust conversation about it because we don't even know what we do. So it's a good idea to find out, what we do. So I will support that.
Okay, before we vote, I just want to say that I appreciate Commissioner Sklitsky bringing forward this in the manner that he is, giving direction a clear direction to staff of, this is a topic that we're interested in pursuing, and we're interested in gaining more information on this. And then having that direction given by the commission as a whole. I think that is I appreciate that course of action. So again, as we look to start exploring new topics, as we look to start considering new information, we can more accurately say, yes, the commission is looking to give direction just to ask questions, just to obtain additional information. So I appreciated that direction there. Unless I'm seeing anyone leaping to discuss further, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. Okay. That brings us into item number 15 of the agenda this evening. Again, this was the item that was added or the second item that was added. This was to consider a motion to rescind the July 27th, 2026 approval of the termination agreements. As the one who brought this onto the agenda, I think I've stated my point at this time that seeing the discrepancy in contract language, I was concerned about the process that we were proceeding in. My original intention was, again, if this was after the further discussion and deliberation with staff and with the commission as a whole, something that's not always attainable over the course of a weekend. My interest in bringing that forward was to ensure that we were following the processes needed to handle all of this rezoning, these changes to our, again, the direction of development within our community correctly by the book and in a transparent process. And so I appreciated being able to have that discussion, again, with members of the commission, that you were willing to engage in that. Again, after discussion with that discussion, feeling confident that we're not needing to to overturn the table on it. Okay. See, Foster Swift, take note of what's being the head nods here. Okay. In any case, again, it was the item was to consider a motion. I'm feeling, as the person who brought it forward, I'm feeling comfortable not seeing that motion made. If anyone else is feeling different or would like to propose a separate motion related to the topic.
Withdraw it.
Yeah, otherwise, no action is required and everything, yeah.
Good.
Yes.
Oh, no, that wasn't you. I knew that one. Yeah, I knew that one. Yeah. So yeah, no additional action is required at this time then on that. Okay. That'll bring us into announcements on city-related issues and new business. At this time, we're going to turn to members of the commission for any announcements or new business items that they would like to bring forward. Let's see. I'm going to call on Commissioner Rollins first this evening.
Oh, I have nothing.
Nothing for, okay. Switching over then, Commissioner Perschbacher, any item that you would like to bring forward, announcement or otherwise?
I just want to remind people, as I always do, we do have a leash law. Please walk your dog on a leash. It's not because we don't trust you and your dog. We can train animals as far as possible, but instinct will take over when they are startled, when they see something they want to chase. This is to protect your dog, is to protect you, and is to protect other animals. I'd also like to remind people that the school is back in session. So when you are out driving about, please be aware of your surroundings. We have children walking. We have college students coming down the Washington and Maine. Please be aware of everyone around you and drive safely.
Okay. Commissioner Sklitsky.
I would like to take a second to thank everybody that took part in making the 250th celebration Market for the Arts possible over the weekend. There was a lot of hands that went into making all that possible for the community. I spent the majority of my weekend down there. It was an amazing experience, seeing everybody getting their face painted and jumping on things and running around. It was really awesome. I think that it really speaks to the community that we have in Mount Pleasant, how everybody can come together and make something like that happen, that we can fill our town center with just joy amidst everything else that's going on. 2026 has not been a great year for a lot of people, but we were still able to come together as a community and celebrate. So that was really splendid. Thank you.
Commissioner Demarath.
I guess I just have a shout out. This is for Parks and Rec. Patricia's awesome. I saw her everywhere on Saturday. Mini soccer downtown, manning one of the craft things for the kids. She was awesome. She was a big help at mini soccer, and go Patricia.
Vice Mayor Ekke. Did I skip? Commissioner Alsager, Commissioner Alsager, I appreciate you as a member of the commission and would like to give you the opportunity. I apologize. My count was off there, and I'm like, I
It's
think I'm
okay.
missing something.
It's okay. I just was paying attention to some things from CMU that are coming up. This Thursday, there's a CMU soccer game, and soccer games are free to go to. And then there's a volleyball game that's not free to go to. But anyhow, there's a bunch of things coming up the next couple of days. So anyhow, there's a couple good things to go to at CMU.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Commissioner Alsager. Vice Mayor Ekke.
I actually don't have much to say other than, everybody have a wonderful, rest of the week. The students are coming back, and there will be a lot of students who are new to Mount Pleasant, so please try to be patient with people driving in all sorts of ways. I've encountered some already. But I also want to say, shout out to Director Biscorna and maybe, Manager DeSense. I met a student who is new in town, and she was bragging about Mount Pleasant, even though she hadn't seen much of it. I'm not kidding. She's like, I love this place. I love the downtown. The proximity of, her housing to places to shop. And she was talking about the places she's visited. And I said, please go to our parks. And, so there is something to be said about this city and the work our staff do, but also the contributions of the residents of the city, to making this place the place people want to be. So thank you to everybody.
Manager DeSense, if you.
Thank you, Mayor. We're talking about shout outs and thanks. And I know I gave some thanks out to the community on Saturday when I got to introduce the Blue House singers. But, very much thanks to all the volunteers, the employees that work for the 250th, artists, performers, entertainers, businesses, workers, everyone that made this past weekend very special. But there's two employees here in Mount Pleasant that I really want to give some thanks to, and that's Mary LaChance and Andrew Whitbrod. They really were sort of the brainchild, as Director Biscorner had told me, behind the total events and really oversaw everything. So it was really awesome to see those two, both work in the streets, work in the events and everything like that, but then also just keeping everything going. So that was fantastic. Also just want to go ahead and give a shout out and thanks because our grant coordinator, Lauren Wentworth, was able to bring down another grant to support our kitchen and incubator space. This one as a Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development grant, $100,000 in equipment to fill that kitchen. So very much thanks to her efforts.
Okay. Thank you for the wonderful shout outs there, Manager DeSense. I appreciate you again giving staff some due there. And we have a great staff here at the City of Mount Pleasant, and I know you know that. So again, appreciate the shout outs. Yeah, I had the opportunity to go down to the 250th celebration over the weekend. Sunday is the day that the vendors will get you, and you will buy more pottery than you know what to do with versus Saturday or Friday. It was a wonderful time. Again, it was really, it was a private-public partnership. I mean, with the Market for the Arts also there, and then all the other civic groups within the community. I know the Audubon Society was there, the Historical Society was there. Just a wonderful event. It was, and so I think there's been discussion about if we wanted to have this being a continuing event. I'm sure that discussion will continue, and I'm interested to see, excited to see what more we can do in the future. Also then, just lastly, I just wanted to turn to the discussion this evening. I wanted to thank all the members of the public who were here this evening and engaged and participated. I wanted to give a thank you to Marja Nostine, who, even though, we did not vote ultimately, I think, in the direction that she was interested in seeing us do. Just a community resident who was committed to advocating and educating herself, and I think has been here over the last year as many meetings as I have been. So I wanted to give that shout out there. And then also just turning to my fellow commissioners. I think it was said best, when we get the issues that carry all the emotional baggage with them. It's a lot of work, and I appreciate each member coming to the table, having thought through and put in a lot, and I know each member has put in a lot of time and effort and thought into the decisions that we are making here today. Voting in favor, voting in opposition. Again, that engagement, the fact that we are here at the table discussing these items is what our job is to do. And I just appreciate my fellow commissioners here today. So with that, we can turn to public comments on agenda and non-agenda items. If you are a member of the public and have something on or off the agenda you would like to discuss, please step up to the microphone. You'll be given 5 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record. If you are on Zoom, please use the raised hand function. If you are out in the public, please feel free to form a queue so we know who's still in line. And I don't know your name, so please make sure you say it for the record.
No, I forgot it, but no, it's Joseph Carrion, 109 North Arnold Street. So I have 3 things to talk about during this time. First thing is I'm a stickler for a waste of paper. A paper that says just adjournment is, to me, is a waste. A little trick that I do is I decrease the font size of just the white spaces. That usually helps and is enough to get something like that to fit into one page. The second and third point are about the Open Meetings Act. So the first one is about the public input, this very specific public input at the end of these agendas. This is the only meeting that does it like this. Every other meeting, the agenda or the public speaking portion for on and off agenda is just one and collided. It's 9:52 right now, and obviously I don't have a life and I like being here, but there are plenty of people who don't have the time to wait for this. And I think, and over the 2.5 years I've been coming to this, most people who speak on agenda items don't have input for off the agenda. I think it's perfectly understandable to combine these. I don't know why they were separated, but I think the discussion to combine them and just make it all at the beginning so people who don't have the time can at least say what they need to say. And the last portion is, again, about the Open Meetings Act, specifically about how Planning Commission, your Planning Commission their last meeting completely missed the ball and skipped a virtual public hearing portion. They allowed people to speak publicly, but they skipped the virtual. And I would know that because I rose my hand during that time. This is now the second time this city, not this commission specifically, but your planning commission has done it once and your ZBA has done it once, where they broke the Open Meetings Act. Completely illegal. I do not know what I have to do to get you guys to do something. Like, do I need to sue the city? What's going on here? Like, this is illegal, like just straight up illegal. And it may be a small issue to some people, but it literally, if you can't follow these small laws, where are we supposed to trust you with the big ones? So thank you.
Greetings, commissioners. My name is Pete Lubert. I live at 1305 Toma Drive here in Mount Pleasant. And thanks for the opportunity to address the commission. This is indeed an off-agenda item, one that's been going on for a year for me. So I'm here to complain that the city of Mount Pleasant is not following its own charter regarding property tax billing and payment handling. This cost me $42.73 in penalties last year. It has probably resulted in incorrect penalties being assessed on other property owners over the past couple of decades. Even more importantly, it's likely costing the city tens of thousands of dollars each year. I stumbled upon these issues when I read the city charter to verify the appropriateness of the, quote, interest that had been levied against my late tax payment last year due to a delay in postal delivery. I discovered that the first sentence of Article 13, Section 19 of the city charter is explicitly clear regarding the due date for summer taxes. According to the city charter, the due date is July 1st. The due date published on my tax bills this year and last year is July 31st. So there's clearly, this is clearly inconsistent with the city charter. That is to say that the due date is July 31st, when in fact the charter says it's the 1st. So I also checked my tax bills for several years prior, and they all have the wrong due date on them. The second sentence of Section 9 states that all taxes paid on or before July 31st shall be collected by the city treasurer without penalty. Okay. With the city charter stating that summer taxes are due July 1st, but there is no penalty until after July 31st, the city charter is in effect providing a built-in 30-day grace period for late payment of city property taxes. On the basis of these facts, it is my contention that the city of Mount Pleasant, by publishing the incorrect due date on summer tax bills, is denying residents the 30-day grace period built into the city charter. For myself, I always try to pay my bills by the due date. Last year, had I been informed of the correct due date on the summer tax bill, it would have arrived well before July 31st. That is the date put on the bill. And it would have arrived in more than enough time to avoid the penalty being levied against my payment. But because the publication of an incorrect due date, I believe the city is culpable in my late payment. It's my opinion that this is tantamount to what I understand in legal terms might be called entrapment by estoppel. That is, it was entrapment to get me to try to pay my bill by July 31st, when in fact it was really due on July 1st, and I would have made it intended for it to be paid by July 31st, but I was given the wrong date. And with the little glitch in the postal delivery, I ended up with a bill. Last year, I brought these concerns to the attention of a city cashier, to the city treasurer, and to the city manager. I received only evasive responses, including a refusal to acknowledge that the city charter is explicitly clear that the due date for summer taxes is July 1st, and a refusal to acknowledge that the city charter effectively provides for a 30-day grace period for payment of the taxes. I have notes with dates to verify these communications. I also brought these concerns to a member of this esteemed city commission and never received any response, even after multiple follow-ups by email and face-to-face inquiries. All of that aside, by far the most important thing that you might want to ponder as a city commission is the remarkable loss of revenue that almost certainly accompanies the publication of an incorrect due date on the summer tax bills. By publishing a due date of July 31st rather than July 1st, the city is likely receiving most of that revenue about 30 days late.
Thank you.
that does represent tens of thousands of dollars forfeited.
We could just change your.
I promise I wrote this down before you said anything before. My name is Marja Notstein, 1361 South Crawford, but I appreciate all of you. I do consider it a win at that southwest corner because before I butted into the conversation, there was no 15 acres for building homes. It was just 30 acres for a monster little teeny school. But I'm sad to see it's the home squeezed in between the parking lots and the lights. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any raised hands on Zoom at this time? Any emails? Okay, not seeing anyone else queuing up to speak for public comments. I'm going to go ahead and close public comments. We have no other business on the agenda at this time. And with that, it is 10 o'clock and we will be adjourned.
My knee is hurting.
Oh, no.
Well, because I've been sitting.
Next one,
Yeah.